Present.
The secretary is here. Board Member Cataldonato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a full vote.
Wonderful, and welcome Kate Fulham, our new planning board member.
Thank you.
Please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do we have any minutes, Madam
We
Secretary?
do not.
No minutes. Okay, so we will close out the regular session and go into work session. Janice, do you want to handle some of the referrals? I don't know.
Are these work session items?
Yeah, they're all work.
Oh, yeah.
Are they all work
It's not
session?
really a work session,
It's a regular
action,
session,
but it's
so
not-
I rescind what I just said.
Yeah.
Forget the
great.
work session, we're back in regular session.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Janice, we're gonna amend the, we're not gonna do the cannabis one, we're gonna put that over.
We can take it off? Would
Yeah.
you-
Yeah.
Okay, the board, town board adjourned the cannabis consumption until October, so we can take that off the agenda just to save you some time. I'll put it on a later
Item
date.
one
So number one will be, I'll just put it on a later agenda.
yeah, great.
Since we have time, there's no reason to take up your time now. Although I brought my maps, I will email you all of them so you can see.
Okay.
Item number 2.
Do we have any of these printed
We
out?
do not.
We do
They're-
not.
They're not here.
Patty, do we have any of these?
I don't have any.
Well, Mike sent you all the housing plan. He sent it all as a link. I didn't print out copies for you now, but I'm assuming you had a
See if I
chance.
can get copies, or he sent a link.
I
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
I know.
I read it.
There,
but
yeah, so, well, let me do an overview.
why don't you do an overview? And
Yes.
it would be great if we could get copies, but
We can absolutely provide you, we gave you the digital link. We're trying to move away from paper.
Yeah, I mean, it was so many pages. It was a lot
it
of
was
pages.
long, and sometimes when you want to make notes on paper, that's the advantage of having a paper is,
Agreed. So,
okay, so Janice,
related
give
to
us.
the housing plan, as you know, there's a referendum vote going on the ballot that will allow a certain percentage of CPF revenue to go toward affordable housing. And we have to have sort of a high-level plan as to what we would do to implement those funds. And
That's
so,
part of the law that was
as
passed
part of the
in-
law.
in the
So
state
this-
legislature.
right, so the state legislature requires that we have a housing plan. Nobody knows better than you all that affordable housing is a crisis, that we need it. How would we implement this? You can sort of see the schedule of how the funding levels would work. That was a remnant of the board meeting of the town board. But the idea is they were raising the price to, for the transfer tax, and also that, to sort of, I don't know if I have that right.
But they increased the deductible.
Right, that was the other part, yes. So, but the real thing is, how would we, sort of look at, the idea of this plan is just basically that we had VHB do a lot of community input, a lot of public surveys. We did all this last year. It was virtual, but there was a lot of public forums and surveys about what people need and want. Many people did say that they needed ADA accessible, affordable housing. That was a large amount of people said that. And then this plan sort of goes through, okay, well, we have codes that allow certain affordable housing. Are we using those codes? Can we put new codes in place? None of these things, to use the CPF money, we can still implement codes to put in more affordable housing throughout our town. So one doesn't preclude the other. Say this didn't happen for whatever reason, we still need to effectuate more codes to allow for further development of accessible and affordable housing. So these recommendations, I'll just skip to that, was senior friendly, more housing options for the disabled, purpose-built housing for employees, so allow, I like to use Ocean Electric as one of the examples. So, you know, they have 2 apartments, and nobody would ever know that there's apartments in that building, but they have a couple of apartments. Like, employers should be sometimes allowed to, where appropriate, have accessory housing. I like to use also the other example of marinas. Maybe their maintenance mechanic could live there and oversee the place and have an affordable place, and that's part of their package of offering something so that, you
Doesn't
know.
the diner have, on County Road 39, and don't they have affordable housing? With the
No.
ability to?
There are apartments, there is an apartment in that, the lunch place, right?
Yes,
The
yeah,
lobster
that
roll?
was, yeah.
And, so yeah, that kind of thing. We don't really know it's there. It's not, you know, in your face, but there's a couple of apartments tucked in a building. That doesn't hurt anyone, and it helps the business attract employees, offset the cost of, wages, and solve some of the traffic and affordable housing problems. Other recommendations are to, you know, sort of find that missing middle housing where we allow, you know, these, at the public hearing for this law, people said, you know, you would allow a house built with, you know, 29 bedrooms, but you wouldn't allow a multifamily situation with 29 units, and what's the real difference, you know? So that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that we're gonna allow that, but those.
The logic of it, yeah.
The logic is, if you had a larger piece of property, why couldn't you do a 4-plex or 2 duplexes or those kinds of things? And we always have the ability, as you know, under the cluster provisions, to cluster into a manor home. So what's wrong with creating more of these sort of manor home prototypes, which we did, you know, at Sandy Hollow?
Beyond the zoning yield, though? Because
The zoning we can fix, we can put that in place. The only clusters allow manor houses, but we're saying why not manor houses anyway? Like, with this, like a 4-plex, like a 4, you know, like it looks like a single-family home, but it may have more than, you know, like 2 or 4 units or something along those lines.
the big limitation to increasing density on a parcel, as you know, is the flow, the health department.
Of course, but
And-
we have to find these solutions in clustering things down in where their services do exist, where we can get adequate sewage treatment, build up, you know, in certain, where it's appropriate, where, you know, in downtowns where you create a walkable hamlet center, apartments above. Like, for instance, our HOHC code needs amending because you get extra, the special exception allows you to get extra apartments if, you know, if you go over a certain square footage, but then you don't get any benefit on the first floor. You know, like, there's problems in our code that we can easily alleviate.
Well, I was gonna-
And this housing plan sort of points them out and says the same thing we've always been saying. Locate smart growth, be in a downtown. Smart growth settings where you're near some kind of transit, bus stop, walkability, train, bike paths, you know, we're trying to get the whole package of sustainability, not, you know, sprawl. So we're always still saying the same exact thing, it's just now collated into a plan, and the other side of that plan is that they would be able to use the CPF funding to help people subsidize their down payments and be able to get into housing. That's the other big barrier.
So is that the, I just want to understand the procedure of all of this. So backing it up, do all 5 East End towns have to approve this in order for it to be part of the CPF?
Everybody has to have their own housing
plan
element, yeah.
in order to take advantage of the 0.5%
Right.
CPF money.
Just like we had to write a water quality plan to
Mhm.
use the 20% toward water quality.
Mhm.
Same
we're-
idea. And we didn't have the
Southampton
exact,
Riverhead are not doing it.
you know,
No.
we didn't, in the water quality plan, we weren't exactly like, we're gonna do these 5 things. We were like, well, it's in these buckets, right? We're reducing, remediating and restoring. In that same way, the housing plan is saying, you know, here's how we would spend the money if you need a subsidy to just get into existing single family. Here's flaws in our code to overcome, to build different housing, you know, in these sort of centralized nodes, still consistent with the comp plan, hamlet area plans. This
So-
is almost a reiteration of what we already know.
So does that provide a list of all of the codes that need to be either instituted or amended at the end, so one could easily understand it?
It does give us tools. I wouldn't say it necessarily says everything that's wrong, although I can surely tell you myself what we need to do, but it also talks about like accessory apartments, how to make that a better code in instances, you know, we require a full development right to provide an accessory apartment, you know, that doesn't entirely make a whole lot
So
of
if I
sense.
could make a suggestion, because these pieces of legislation are large and sometimes takes a lot to understand and to digest, that if you could have some charts and some listing of what you're proposing, say, accessory apartments. Okay, so on just a master list, number 1, accessory apartments, suggestion, change code, da-da-da.
Right. Well, this plan doesn't say you have to change any codes. It's just giving you a high level, here's how you tackle the affordable housing problem from all different angles. You know, look at these things. That's basically what this tells you.
Yeah, I mean, what I read, what I think I understand is that it's deliberately vague to allow for adjustments based on what happens when you see it, when the opportunity comes. And I guess my only concern is what bells and whistles, what curbs are in there, if any, about how it can be used, so that it's not all going to just, I'm going to use an egregious example, one developer who's going to put in 50 homes.
Right. Well, it goes through, starting on page 38, like the proceeds from CPF. So the first and foremost, first-time home buyer assistance. So I need to buy a house, the first house I'm buying, my income is this, my barrier to entry is the price, the difference, right, the delta there. So the CPF, but there's a limitation. They're not gonna give you $3 million. You know, you're gonna get, you know, only 50% of the purchase price.
And you have to show that you have the income to
Oh, of
to
course.
pay the rest.
Right.
'Cause-
It says, it may be given to income eligible households residing in the town and, a service award reducing the amount of the mortgage to be repaid to veterans and volunteer people in the town. So there's some like benefits to being local.
Is that legal? Wasn't there a
It says to
question
the
raised about
extent it does
affordability?
say to the extent permitted by law,
Yeah, that might be
priority.
against- Right, fair housing.
Fair housing. We raised this, remember when the town wanted to put in 60 affordable housing units on County Road 39, right at the corner?
Yes, but this is why, the fund that is from the town to be used to people that work in the town is not the same as fair housing, just these units are for everyone. This is to access the money, you have to be local because it's a fund.
That's
It's
all
not
been
the
checked
same.
legally, right?
It says to the extent permitted by law, so we will determine that.
Yeah, I
and
think so,
Carol's been
because we
looking into
raised.
that. But we're talking about
I think
accessing funding.
The fact that they put it as determined by law leaves that. so
Leaves
that
it.
What it will be, it could
Okay.
be disputed, because it's not statutory, so that, you know, live, work, whatever it is, that whole issue, it's not statutorily defined.
Okay.
So it's case law.
Well, right, and it's one thing to say, well, these apartments are open to anyone. It's one thing to say these apartments are open to any, like affordable housing that's been built is now, the lottery is open to anyone who applies. It's another thing to say, our fund, the town of Southampton's fund is now open to it's not that way. We're talking about the money itself, we're not talking about the fair housing laws of the place.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
And what's the projected budget for that half, it's a 0.5%, right?
Yeah, I don't have, what do you mean projected budget?
Well,
How
if
much
we're
revenue
charging
goes there?
2.5%, what's that 0.5% per year
It's
expected to
impossible.
be?
It's tied to
Well, I
Because
mean,
it's based on sales.
Well, it's based on sales, which
But last
can
year-
be a
From the year
projection,
before.
an extrapolation of like prediction. We'll say, what was it last year?
I couldn't tell.
Millions.
Yeah.
Well, the 20%, just the last year, we had that boom of a year, we ended up with like 10 million toward water quality, and that
Right.
was 20%. So this is a lot less.
Right.
So it's not as much
But
as
we
you
know
think
like what
it is.
CPF generated last year, right, at 2%, so if we,
Right, I don't have that with me, but
Okay.
I can definitely find out from Lisa Combrink, who's next door.
and then of that 5.5%, right, not 5%, 0.5% all of that has to go to that particular first home buyer assistance program?
No,
Or
it goes
to
to a
implement the
fund,
housing
to a
plan
dedicated
as
fund,
well?
and then applicants come in and get
So then-
vetted.
What's that fund
with-
called?
The community is,
Housing.
housing,
CH.
yeah.
So within that, similarly to the way that the town
Housing
incentivizes septic upgrades, could they incentivize, second floor apartments?
Well, that's a
or,
good comment. Should I add that to your list of comments?
It's a question for me, for sure.
We have to read it and
Yeah,
understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Is
so
it-
that was the first thing, the first time homebuyer assistance, that's like priority one. Employer assistance housing. The fund may provide financial assistance in conjunction with a public-private partnership when an employer wants to create housing. The production of housing, meaning that we may provide low-interest loans or something through the housing authority to produce and maintain housing for sale or rent.
The town could provide low-interest loans?
It says the town may provide financial assistance through low-interest loans in conjunction with a public-private partnership or with the Southampton Town Housing Authority. D, the rehabilitation of community housing. The town may use the community housing fund for rehab of existing buildings and structures for the purpose of conversion for sale or rental.
Do we have an inventory of zombie homes? Does the town keep record of it? Zombie homes
We
in there?
do through code enforcement.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that, I think that's toward that.
because that would be kind of neat to tie those things together, have, targeted properties, and maybe even have, a database or a pool of, developers or, construction people that may be willing to, bid on projects.
Right, I agree.
So Janice, is the agency handling this within the town, the housing department?
Kara back, I swear I should have invited to this meeting.
Janice,
I have, I guess from answering Craig's question, the idea of the town actually administering loans. I think that's, for me, a red flag. Now you're getting yourself into a whole new business.
Banking and loans,
So low-interest loans.
It should be through
a bank.
some sort of third party.
Does that occur already through the housing authority? There's already a mechanism for it?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
We
then,
just do, the
It's
housing
something
authority is mostly like lease-ups and doing,
building,
they do build and they also implement our Section 8 program.
I think it's a fine idea to make a recommendation that a banking or financial institution be partner with you.
Janice, you may want to look at, I think it still exists, Fannie Mae Home Ready Program,
Okay.
which they provide low-interest loans to first-time home buyers if the property is deemed affordable and if they meet certain income parameters as well. That might be,
That property deemed affordable is our issue. We don't have anything deemed affordable here.
well, if we did, like, any interest, if we targeted some of the zombie homes, could we do that? Like, could that be written into the code?
I'll absolutely put it in as a recommendation to look at.
Janice, I just wanted to say that the biggest limitation of creating additional dwelling units out here is the sewage. And the town is sitting on hundreds of sewage rights through their CPF acquisition. And in the past, on a limited basis, the town has made these rights available.
We still do actively today.
Yeah, but they really should be, you should really encourage the town board to develop a standardized program where, almost like a development rights transfer, if you have for instance, now, if you have an oversized parcel, and you have a development right within that same school district, it's almost administrative. You can transfer that right, create a second lot sometimes, or a second dwelling unit on that lot. But if you don't have that development right, you could maybe secure one of the town's sewage rights, and with the proviso that the dwelling unit is in the affordable,
We do that right now, but we can add that in here, but also you should know that Dave is working on a plan to have our TDR plan recognized by the county. And that's what limits us right now, is Suffolk County needs to recognize
The health department?
the
you
health
mean?
department.
the health department needs to recognize our TDR program officially in order for those things to be more administratively done.
How did we do it in the past?
We still do it today, but a lot of times when we try to do it like, oh, well, this is easy, this is an oversized lot, blah, 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 they go, no, you don't have a recognized plan. So we're doing that right now.
Right.
Our goal is to have
Like a
it done by the end of
cross-access
the
plan,
year.
right?
Oh,
Like a
okay.
plan.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the biggest issue that I would try to get my head around is that someone comes to you to access this. What's the blueprint? Where do they start? How do they, there's
Well, it
so much,
depends on-
so
yeah.
many, there's just so much involved and so many options that I think you really have to tighten it up and outline it in such a way that people say, oh, they'll make it available for a loan, or they'll do this, or they'll do that. It's
We
because
do
other-
say these are the goals. So the goals are to
But the goals are different from action items.
provide the housing,
Janice.
but you have to read what it says,
Mhm.
provide more housing option for senior. You're saying to literally lay out exactly where
Give
and
an
when
act-
and how.
Give an action plan. Here's the goal, and here's what you have to do in order to access it.
To your point, my thought was maybe stepping once back from that and prioritizing the methods that you're recommending, right? So if, you're not necessarily maybe getting to, we'd like to see this particular method used and we're going to create a mechanism for incentivizing that, but you're prioritizing whatever methods, whether it's, rehabbing the zombie homes, getting the first-time homebuyer credits, so that all the methods are getting rolled out in a phased, maybe, in order of how we think they would be most impactful, so that it's not just,
Right, to generate
the
the-
money's available, and then whoever gets in line first, which sometimes is
That happens.
how
Yeah.
it works.
That's kind of, you're saying differently what my concern, that
Yeah.
how is
Right.
the money
Well,
gonna be
it's
allocated?
sort of everything we're already doing, put in a plan. So it's hard to say, like, well, how are you, everything's always happening at once, so it's,
Right.
nothing happens like sequentially, really.
But if you
On paper it does, but in real life, people are like, hey, I have this property, hey, this, that, the other thing, and we're all like doing
But-
everything at the same time. So that's why you have to have a plan that allows you to grab it when it comes up and say, yes, this is how, and yes, set your sights on things, but also
Right.
enable you to say, great, we can use the money for that, we can, do it, and here's what we're gonna do.
I guess what I'm saying is that it has to be managed. Otherwise, there's going to be an avalanche on this town. Maybe not an avalanche, but there'll be a rush for people to access this. And you have how many people are in that department? 2 people?
Right.
So again, it's a wonderful idea, but in order to manage it and make it work efficiently, it has to be staffed. You have to make an association, perhaps with a financial institution, if monies are being exchanged and contracts are written.
And
And does somebody from the legal department in the town become involved in this? It's all management, Janice. We've talked about this a lot.
Right, where if you have those priority methods, and then you can create a request for applications to an incentive, and then like really focus on that area, but have the flexibility.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, is not just having the floodgates open, but having
Yeah.
like different funnels into different point people
I like
and
that.
things like
That
that.
sounds great.
It might be helpful if you could explain how the water quality is being implemented right now, because that's sort of I think somewhat similar, that there's a pool of money, some of which I think is being directed by the town, but there also, taxpayers can raise their hand and say, I want to do this.
Yes. Do you want me to explain how that works?
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that if we,
In a
we've,
nutshell.
we've,
Implement similar.
we've invented something there.
We have a blueprint.
Sure, and
Look at the blueprint of water
it was me that
quality.
did that, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
One more thing for you to do, Janice.
I was still
Well,
trying to
give me
write
your-
the update
give me
for
your
that.
shoulders.
That's why you don't.
Let me pile it on.
So, yes, I agree with you. I think those are great recommendations. Do you have any others that you want me to write down?
Well,
You don't have to
some of us
adopt them all
hasn't
today.
really, no. But let us read it, and we can you email Janice directly with some thoughts.
I'll
so
give
she
you a
can-
draft, and
Yeah.
then you
Yeah,
can come,
sure.
Yeah,
work
what's the
with it.
timeline for?
Yeah,
Like yesterday?
Okay.
see?
So,
Well, I mean, it's going to be on, it has to go to the BOE,
yeah,
like this month or the very beginning of next
August.
month?
yeah, August.
August?
So you have one more meeting, so I'll email
Oh,
it
it's
to
a
you, and then I'll
referendum.
put it back on for the
Yeah,
next
to get
meeting
it, to get it on the
adopt.
ballot.
Do you have the wording on the referendum?
I'll get it. I
You're
do,
looking
but I
at
don't
two
have
league
everything
people
right
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who are meticulous about wording of referendums.
In
Very
terms
good.
of procedure on providing comments, do you ever use Google Docs commenting, or, just so it's all in one place versus you receiving a number
Yeah,
of
we just send
emails
it-
with all comments in them?
We haven't, but we could, but we don't usually.
Okay.
And you want the
I'm a fan of
privacy of
Teams,
just dealing with the
personally,
Outlook
'cause-
Express or email.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just be in a little email group, and I send you and you each individually send me back your comments,
Yeah.
and I put them all together.
Right.
That's how we typically do it.
Janice, I don't know where this fits in, but maybe just a little bit of caution that, sometimes the availability of land, especially affordable land by our standards, could be concentrated in, too few towns. And I worry about the impact on the local schools. So, I don't, like I said, I don't know where that fits in, but I think that should just, be on our minds as we proceed.
Yeah, the goal should be
Well-
east of the canal.
Well, yeah,
Equal
not just on
distribution.
the school districts, but also, again, clustering or concentrating all the affordable, housing opportunities in a couple hamlets where either there's a bit
Yeah.
of land or, lower prices.
And personally, my thought is also, looking at it in the overall context of like a capacity planning situation where you're really, not trying to just over-densify, like you're saying.
Maxing out. In other words, are there
Yeah.
numbers or projections that you can,
And often.
Cut it
I
off?
think one of the biggest things is trying to sort of get people into existing housing stock and then creating other additional options. Because it's not, just the single-family model isn't really the only thing that people need.
but Dennis made a really good point. I mean, the master plan that was done, the comp plan, that was given to me when I first came on the board, I don't know, it was like a 30, 40-year-old master plan, right? It was all, the bottom line was water, availability of water and septic. So those guidelines
That-
are
that-
key. you
That
know?
hasn't changed,
Yeah,
because we have a limited amount of
Limited
lands,
amount-
we have a limited
limited
amount of
amount of-
drinking water, we have a limited amount of sewer capacity.
so that needs to be
Right, and
somehow
that's the capacity
integrated.
planning I'm speaking of. There's
Mhm.
only so much, you could have billions of dollars, but if you can't drink the water or move on a street, then it doesn't help you. So you have to make
We
sure.
can't
you're
move
still-
now, Janice.
Tell me about it.
Is
You know,
the
We are gridlocked.
Stony Brook Southampton campus considered at all in the housing plan? Just because I know when that was an undergraduate campus, it provided a workforce, it provided affordable housing for seasonal workers,
Now it's,
and-
the hospital is looking to redevelop there, and maybe they would have a housing component for their residents or for, staff, but I don't know that it would be for the general population. Maybe it would be students, residents, or staff, some kind of
But that would help,
housing.
with the traffic,
It would.
if they're employed.
So-
I mean,
Yeah.
I've had
That would be an
conversations with
employer-based.
Yeah.
Pat Malone, who works on the workforce development, and, talked about having some kind of partnership where there is a workforce development component through the university and maybe SPD, school professional development, where those people could then be housed on the campus, and those dorms, the rest of them could be brought up to code and
Yeah.
safety measures, so.
I think that's great, and that's a
It's
great
just
suggestion.
vacant now, which is tough
Right.
to see.
And it'll be several more years before they're ready.
Janice, I have one more question. How does this interface with the affordability component that we have now? If you develop 6 lots, for example, you have to have one affordable, which was based on New York State's affordable housing law. Does it, is it?
It's interesting because there was a recent debate, like, well, if you're mandated the one workforce housing and you needed a TDR credit, does that matter? We won't give you the credit for affordable. Yes, of course we'll give you the affordable. The same way with the water quality, when somebody says you have to put in a new IA system, we will still give you grant money, even if it's a failing system, because the benefit is the same. So I would say we would still allow for it's not in contravention to the workforce housing, but if they needed some kind of assistance through this program for that extra lot, we'd have to figure out what's equitable there.
So that stands
It
as is?
still stands as is,
Or
and then
should
if
we-
they try to access funds, because we said, oh, you've got 5 lots, now you need a 6th lot, and they say, well, I want, some assistance toward building the house on the 6th lot, because it's gonna be affordable, we wouldn't, I would not recommend shutting that person out and saying, you can't have the funds now. That would be, because they're mandated. It's the same way as the water quality. When you're mandated to have an IA system, we'll still give you grant money. So it's,
So developers very often cut back by one lot because they don't want to do an affordable. Is there money that they pay that goes into a fund?
No, not now.
There's nothing, there's no,
well,
I
that's a
think,
great word.
I think they're supposed to
Yeah.
be, though.
Well, no, I
I
think
think
if
there
they,
was.
If
if
they
built-
cut back, but this would give them the incentive to do the extra lot, because it would then give them some funding to build the home, to
I
make it
thought they were
affordable.
supposed to pay a fee
I
not
thought
to
they were-
build that house, and it was
No,
falling into
yeah,
it.
Well,
yes,
that's
but-
at the discretion of
of the builder.
Yeah,
land
Right, we don't.
Take a
we don't-
look at that
If
legislation.
they do a reduced lot density, say they could, on a yield plan, get 6 lots and they only do 3,
Yeah.
we don't say, well, you could have done 6, so you have to give us affordable housing somewhere. We definitely don't do that.
We say, oh, yay, open space.
Right, we
Right,
say,
but-
good, 3.
But
good,
the
'cause it's less
pattern,
density.
the pattern has been, the way the New York State legislation was written and that this town adopted, was that it gives you an out. It gives them an easy out, not to do
And the
affordable
out may not
housing.
be that they don't want they can't afford to do affordable housing, is they don't want to affordable
Yeah, it's
housing, it's a 6 lot.
That's right, they don't want it. I mean, we are, on this board, when we have a development that has, say, 2 or 3 or 4 affordable housing units, we make sure that they're in the general mix of the housing
Yes.
development and not segregated off in one parcel.
Okay, oh, I think that's a great point. I'll
And the other
add
thing
that
with
in.
this too is, sometimes, what I've noticed is that when we look at affordable housing within the town of Southampton, we don't always look at what's happening in the villages themselves too, right? So you look at Hampton Beach Village, for example, there's a ton of housing going up there that's not really being considered when you look at other things that are happening in Quire or Hampton.
Well, they should be with cumulative, but it's hard when it's a separate jurisdiction. That's where Suffolk
Are they
County is
affordable?
supposed to get involved,
Some,
when there's a
Really?
Some are
regional
affordable, yeah.
impact.
Yeah.
in fact, there's some affordable ones going up in Hampton.
could you speak up? I'm having a hard time hearing.
There are some affordable things happening on Hampton Beach itself too, and on Montauk Highway. I think. There's some stuff going on there.
Yes, yep.
Now, can the incorporated villages take advantage of this program as well?
Yes.
They can dip it.
pay into the fund,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
And
But they have to adopt their own plan, I would think. They,
Do
Because
they
they're a
have-
separate municipality.
Do they have to
villages.
adopt a water plan?
actually,
I don't think they did.
they didn't. That's another good.
They'd
point.
have to adopt their own plan to utilize
The
Southampton
funds.
Town funds?
I don't think
I'm
so.
not sure.
I'm-
I wish I would ask Karen.
How does that
for
work with
that.
CPF acquisition in the villages?
Yeah, I mean, I know.
Right, CPF money, for example, would go to Southampton
We would
Village, that goes to
absolutely,
them.
we
It's a-
give them water quality money,
And
so
then-
if they said, hey, we're doing this affordable housing, we want,
Some of
in
some
the
of that
village,
money.
we want the, or the first time
It's a good-
home buyer assistance in
Yeah,
the
it's a
villages,
good
they would
question.
be able to avail themselves.
Mhm.
All right, so I have villages, how do
Yeah,
they fit?
I know that we have given the village of Southampton money for water quality.
For water quality.
100%, we have, and they
Janice,
still
these are
ask for it.
grants, correct? They're not loans of any kind.
Well, one
money
of the
that they-
suggestions does say a low-interest loan program, but that remains to be seen on how to do that, and that was one of the, but they're a grant in as much as, you don't just get the benefit and the equity. If you were to sell it, that comes back to the fund.
I was
It's
gonna
the
ask you
same
that
as
question.
chapter
As-
216.
As this evolves, and I think goes a little to what Jackie was saying, Lori, about the process, a first-time home buyer, as we all know, most of us, the financing is perplexing under the best of circumstances. As this fills out, I think laying out how this program works in an understandable fashion for, they're gonna have to go to a commercial bank for a standard mortgage at some point, I presume. I think we need to lay out very carefully for the potential home buyer how this process works, because a lot of commercial banks, I don't think are real big thinkers when it comes to how these ideas work. I think it has to be laid out very carefully, so that when they go to apply for a mortgage, or they may have to get pre-approved for the mortgage, at what point does this become a commitment that they can use when they're talking to a bank?
That's true, I agree with that, and Yeah, I remember when I bought my house, them saying like, this money is not a gift, right? And you had to like sign something saying your down payment was not a gift, like you didn't know anybody like that, because then that counts toward,
So it's the amount of money you can actually pay.
right,
And,
right.
and if it's a low-interest loan, who's the, first mortgage holder, who's the second mortgage holder, those kind of questions.
When you can use a
along with
different
any-
mechanism to reduce the interest points on the loan, like USDA has funding for food facilities where they actually guarantee the loan 80%. So maybe that's the funding that could be held in escrow to guarantee, the town could have a loan guarantee program where someone that might not qualify for a loan could get it at a lower interest rate because of the backup of the town's funds. And then it's kept in escrow generating interest if it's needed, it slides over.
And this.
That could be
needs
interesting
To have an outside.
versus getting
Yeah,
into
that's
lending.
financial
That's safer than
institution.
lending.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Right.
safer.
Bankers talk to bankers.
And you can make money off of it in the
Yeah.
meantime.
I do think that because you just don't have the depth in the town for it, the staff, Janice. So that should be recommendation number one, as far as I'm concerned.
The administrative side.
Administrative side, this
Yeah.
requires a specialty.
Well, I have to say, just the water quality grant is a massive amount of work.
Yes.
A massive amount
Of
of
course.
information and vetting and committee,
Yeah.
and it wasn't some simple thing. It was a.
If the town wants to
And
move
it
forward
was on
with,
your plate for,
Yeah,
long
I
time.
finally like sent it off, but I still kind of get involved.
yeah.
But, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
so if
I
the
mean,
town wants these large programs,
They have
they
to
have to
support them.
consider staffing.
Can some of the fund be used to pay for staffing?
Yes. I would
Eyes
think.
will glaze over when you
Don't
say
know.
that.
Don't they?
Well, you know, in
don't we-
CPF,
doesn't
there's a,
CPF pay for
there's
those
a
people?
portion in CPF for management
I think-
of lands.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the CPF law. Certainly, you could use a percentage of these CPF funds that are generated, the 5%, 0.5, to staff.
Right. I will put that in there, and.
That's sensible.
We'll have to.
That's
these
what I
are
was
very
thinking
good
about, what
recommendations.
is the, if we had even the last year, and then you have the projection of like, what is the pot of money, right? Because you could have any plan that you want, but it really comes down to implementing it, and do you have the resources, human and financial, to get it done? And
It-
land and
It's-
I was
housing,
on
You
the
could
whatever,
Google
right?
that, it's a big
So
pot.
then-
It's
Yeah,
a
it is a
huge
big
pot.
pot.
Yeah.
But it does
But if you
fluctuate
have
quite a
that-
bit year
It
over year.
fluctuates.
you know, a safe
dramatically.
amount, and then you can build a 5-year plan or whatever around what, how do you triage? We're ready to stop the bleeding on affordable housing, so what's the best top 3 methods of doing that, and how can we use the money available to really make a positive impact quickly?
Yeah, so in water quality, it's different because we have a committee that vets the things and says this is the most bang for the buck, or this is actually $200 per pound of nitrogen or something.
Is that
We
a
look at those
volunteer
things.
committee?
It is.
Isn't there supposed to be a volunteer committee for the housing fund?
I believe so. So
Yes.
that's the kind of thing that the committee would have to, and we have a rubric. We developed a whole scoring system. It's a lot, so it will be the same idea.
But internal staff, part of this money should go to,
Yeah.
to subsidizing internal staff,
Yeah.
augmenting and subsidizing.
Janice, you're gonna need more pages in your pad when we're done here, I think.
Yeah.
You thought this was gonna be
Yeah, but
easy.
this is, I'll be right out. I'll be right next door.
Google the
exact- I'll just that one.
2021 CPF funds for Southampton. I believe it's
70 million.
70
in my head,
million
but
is
I'm
sticking
like-
in my head too, somewhere between 70 and $100 million.
How much we have now in our fund?
Is what it's more, generated on 2021 CPF funds for the town of Southampton.
But that's a number that we should not be using,
No, that's not the right
because
number.
It fluctuates, but it gives you some,
It doesn't, because
Idea.
it's fluctuated so high compared to anything we've ever had.
it's a glitch, I mean, glitch.
I think you need to look at it, you need to look
You
at
look
an
at an
average.
An average,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
still high.
Right.
Yeah,
The point is, you're gonna have this pot of money,
Mm-hmm,
0.5%.
right.
In a dedicated fund.
Right.
How are we going to use it?
Exactly.
That's the whole point of all of this. How is it going to be rolled out? How do you access the money?
Right,
How do we, we're building, we're renting, we're loaning.
But the
And we're-
core
we're-
question is, what is the projected safe number of what that budget is each year? And then you can start putting things into a spreadsheet, like, well, we need a director for that.
Right.
And then we need you know?
Right, well, I'm not
Incentive, you know.
administering it, but
Yeah.
I'm volunteering to do that.
What sounds like you are.
I'm just taking down your recommendations for the
You know, you
town
just
board.
It's how much money is available.
Copy yourself on a copier and.
Next
So,
page.
okay, so I think I got the general gist of what you're
Gist.
saying. I'll wordsmith it into something like
Yeah,
comprehensive.
It was 110 million, by the way.
110 million.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, 2021.
Cool.
That was the 2%.
So, and I'll
That's
bring this
2
back
PM.
for a vote for the next,
We
I
just
just
need
wanna
the
keep your
reverse
agenda
math.
moving. I don't wanna take up too much
All
of your
right,
time.
so is Mike presenting the next two, or are you
No,
gonna just go through
I-
them? You gonna go through
Mike's
them?
not here, and I didn't know he put this referral. Do you have some comments on, did I bring that upstairs with me? Oh, yeah, the term limits. Do you
No,
have,
it's extension terms of service.
Yes,
To 7, from
reestablish.
4 to 7.
right,
Do you have extra copies of the terms?
I've only been serving for about 7 minutes.
does
so-
everybody have?
You're relatively safe.
I'm not sure I have.
Actually, it's
on that
almost
one yet.
45.
I'm sure, I know.
The
Does everyone have one?
I have a copy.
You want one?
It's okay, I'll share with you.
I didn't even know I had this
Oh, we'll share,
pile of
thanks.
stuff. I have an extra.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
so the legislative intent to increase the terms of service for Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals members from 4 to 7 is to provide continuity in terms of rotation on and off, to also follow guidelines by both the American Planning Association, the New York State Federation of Planning, where that you have, if you have a 7-person board, you have 7 years of service. So I think, and over the years, it's been whittled away for various reasons. So restoring it to 7 years, I think is a sensible.
And it also, as you'll notice in the legislation, it also staggers the terms so that at the expiration of those terms, you're not losing a majority of
whole
the board
board,
at a time. So you
yeah.
can stagger it out, which is
Exactly.
how it should be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have any comments on this? You support it?
Support it.
You support it?
Support it.
Planning,
Yeah.
no planning issues, you support it? Do you want to
Yeah,
vote on
we
that?
support it. So can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, extension, 7 in favor.
Okay, that's great.
And then the last one,
I have the
Oh.
CPI. First, I just wanted to, there's a set maintenance bond for
you
landscaping.
want to do that first. That's
Yeah.
number 3.
That's number 3.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I don't know if
Construction's halted? Do you know why construction is halted there?
construction's halted on CPI.
Yeah, the Codman, you're talking about the main.
I'm talking about Canoe
Okay,
Place
I
Inn.
thought you were on the Codman.
So Canoe Place Inn, I went there on Friday, I did all the inspections, I looked at the landscaping, it's really just gorgeous, it looks great. I don't know if you saw the deer sculpture.
I saw the town
Town
board
board
work
comments.
session.
Yeah, well, the deer's there, and the landscaping is installed, they gave me a, estimate, and the recommendation is to recommend setting them out for $191,823. That's a third of the price. So it was over
Does that include the
$500,000 of landscaping.
Includes the condos or not?
But this is just a landscaping maintenance bond.
No, but.
No,
when you
this
say
is just on
Place
Canoe
Inn.
Place Inn.
Okay. Isn't the whole complex
It's a
being
whole
called something?
complex, but we have 2 separate site plans.
But it's including the cottages where the deer lives.
That's correct. The
Okay.
landscaping all in there.
That portion, okay.
Everything with
Where the
Canoe
deer
Place
lives.
Inn and those 5 cottages
I
is one site plan.
haven't gone over the canal since the deer went in.
You gotta check it out. It's
How about September,
selfie-worthy.
September of October? Go to the
It
canal.
looks great.
I'll move it.
Motion by Dennis, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, and then do you
And
want
then
to
the
take
last
this?
thing, if you've been there and noticed, we did have to go revisit the PDD and clean it up, because as you recall, we now said the boathouses are part of the hotel complex, right? So the boathouses can be rented as villas as part of the Canoe Place Inn complex. When we went back to the Canoe Place Inn and we're looking at it, we forgot to like cross things out. So this public hearing that we just had on Tuesday was just a final cleanup of the code. We went through it again, crossed out stuff that was talking about the conditional access easement, took it all out. It's definitely
Can-
not conditional.
Okay, just run down those things, Janice, so
Yes,
we'll know what you're
so,
talking about.
oh, here. Sorry, I thought you have these things. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon, do you have one? Nope. So, so you'll see that it says consistency with Town Board Resolution 2022-260. That was the resolution that allowed the boathouses to be hotel villas and took away all that conditioned springing easement stuff. We didn't cross out, we missed a section. So you see where it's crossed out on page 3? We struck all that out.
Which one, number 5?
Just under V, see where it starts?
Oh, yeah.
Part of page
Yeah,
two.
yeah,
Page
yeah.
two.
See where page 3, where it starts crossing out passive public ease. We crossed out all the stuff that's talking about this conditional springing easement. Gone. It's just gonna be the easement, they're building it now with the platform.
Which goes from the parking lot
Goes from the parking lot
up
all the way
to
down,
the sidewalk.
around the pool, and to the marina. You can go to the marina and come back.
That's
It
the
ends.
walking path.
And they can go up on the platform, and then on the sidewalk on their private property and out to North Road.
Anyone can.
That's what we're gonna have now. Before, it was getting to the MTA, going under the bridge on the hill, and we weren't gonna get that, so now we go around.
Following the
But we're
breadcrumbs.
getting it.
Do you know why you
So
did
that's a public
bulk
access?
construction though? Was it just for the summer or?
I'm sorry, Dennis,
The-
it's hard to
the
hear you.
construction on the new units by the canal. Construction halted about 2 weeks ago. Do you know?
I haven't heard any, like, real reason
On the
why.
the new building, right,
Yeah.
closest to?
I think they're doing interior work, but
No, no,
on
they
the other
framed,
one.
they're half framed and they stopped.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't said why, if anything. There hasn't been any legal, any stop works on our end.
Okay, so then you,
It just allows like swimming pool, spa, guests, just filling in little bits and pieces about, what I just said, about forgetting that passive, conditional easement and allowing it as what it is today. The other thing is they put up signage. If you notice it when you go by, it just says, can you place in, very subtle, very simple, but in the original code, we said it had to meet RWB and, signage, and it doesn't because it's got those historical setbacks. And but it looks great. I feel like I brought everything for cannabis and I forgot the pictures. But, if you go by it and see it, it's just, it's very simple, understated signage, no lighted, not lit. And that was the other thing in the law, to allow for the signage to be this, of those historical setbacks. So you don't have to be 20 feet in on the property.
So their signage master plan was approved?
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Well, this is
referencing-
it was a written comment period. I can email you all the signage and pictures and everything if you don't feel comfortable, because I don't have it with me. I'm sorry, I ran up here, forgetting that this was part of it. But the sum and substance is that, the signage is compliant with as far as what we would want, very subtle, simple, can you place in, that's all it says. It just doesn't meet the RWB setbacks.
I go past it every day. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
And the landscaping looks great.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's all-
so has the traffic
I haven't seen the deer yet.
improved over there at all? The traffic,
It's not open yet.
It's not open yet.
no, but
It's
I
been
mean,
moved
even
with
with the way the road has been reconfigured, yeah.
There's that, and then we've also had, the highway superintendent and others have been out there from the highway department, and they're trying out a new thing with the flashing, and it's
Right,
moving
I
really
read
quick.
that.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
Really
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
The other thing is that our county legislator, Bridget Fleming, got like $250,000 to do a feasibility study for the roundabout in that area, even though they just put all those improvements in, but they changed that pattern, we have to make a left, and they took
Yeah.
that, and everybody hates it. They put some money to check out if we can do a
We
roundabout.
could do a couple of other roundabouts in the town, too.
Yeah, so that's
Is that
underway
a-
right now. The
Bay's
county DPW is
Exactly,
looking at
Hampton
that.
Bays down
That's another day.
there. Okay, so,
So this would
Do
be,
you
do
need
you have
to vote
any
on
planning
this?
issues with these amendments?
no?
I know.
Okay, motion to accept
Motion.
by Gloria, second by
Second.
Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Janice,
Jan.
thank
Nice
you.
Janice.
You
Nice
Time.
nice to
I'll
see
be-
you in person.
need a few more things to do?
Yeah, a couple things to do.
Okay.
See what to do with all the pieces, but I saw what you said.
Jackie is here? or-
I'm gonna do
Oh,
my,
Anthony, you're going to do yours?
Yep.
Okay.
so let's start with number 9, which is Aaron Sachs.
Sachs.
Should have a report. If you don't have it, let me know.
No, but Patty made us a full packet.
Oh, okay. If it's not,
That's a page.
I sent you something separately, though, so.
Was it included in here?
Thank you.
I sent mine separately. I was out a few days, Jackie.
Thanks.
Okay, so you have separate.
So, yeah, but so if you didn't.
We always
have it, I'll-
like that.
This property is on Lewis Road. It's just north of Montauk Highway, not too far from the East Quad Village Green. It's in the R20 zoning district. We have an application for a 2-lot subdivision of this property with an existing residence in the front and then a vacant lot in the back. I have the aerial up so you can see the property. Subdivision map, as I said, it would be a 2-lot subdivision with a flag lot in the back of the property. We had the public hearing, we did the referrals, and I prepared a pre-application report. Right off the bat, you'll see the project name is not correct. It says 74 Priscilla, but it's supposed to say Aaron Sachs. All the other information is correct. I gave you a description of the property location. It's mostly residential, and then of course on the highway there's some commercial uses. This is a standard subdivision application with 2 lots. It is a type 2 action under SECRA, Chapter 157 of the code. The applicant requested a waiver of the cluster plan. This board finds that a cluster plan is not warranted in this case. That's only a 2-lot subdivision. It's not adjacent to any.
Anthony, can you speak up a bit?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry about
Just pull
that.
that mic closer to you.
I'm usually much louder, as you know. On historic application, this property was known as Lot 3 on a subdivision, Frank Wettrow, which was approved by the planning board in the 80s. And there was a covenant in there that said no further subdivision of any of the lots unless approved by the planning board. So there was no covenant issues with this. Very similar to the one that we did right behind this property, was from the same previous subdivision. So we're able to proceed. This is a minor subdivision under the town code. Conformance with zoning, I believe the flag lot lacks a lot width, lot width, so it would need relief from that. It's also worth noting that the property meets the minimum zoning requirement, including the flag strip. We've had this discussion, I think, that as many times. There's nothing in the code that says that the flag gets excluded from lot area. So we have a design standard in the subdivision regulations that requires 1.5 times.
1.5.
But an actual lot area does not need to include the flag strip.
So that's a design standard.
It is a design standard, so I do note that in here. With respect to the zoning relief, as we say with all these cases, the zoning board of appeals has to make a determination as to whether or not, really they're supposed to see if a development right was possible to transfer on the property to create undersized lots. And that's under the jurisdiction of the ZBA. It's actually in the code as a specific type of variance that they're allowed to grant. So we point out for every applicant that that's the standard. So we'll see what the zoning board says if they decide to move forward. But I would suggest that the applicant, and it says it in here, to increase the size of that property, the flag lot, by making some adjustments to the lot in the front, which is larger, or if they need to decrease the size of the flag strip to try to make the bulk a little bit bigger. Again, that's if they want to proceed with a zoning board application.
So they have enough square footage to create the lot.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just saying because of that 1.5 times, we try to get them to make the flag lot always a little bit
Right,
bigger if possible.
when we can.
When we can, yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't require ZBA relief.
No, they have a lot width problem in the.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yeah, so that's where the zoning board
Gotcha.
is a lot width. Park requirement will be done with the payment of a park fee. It's only one additional lot. A public hearing was held on May 12th with no public comments received. This is not subject to the
What is
law.
the park fee, Anthony?
$2,500. It's a flat fee of $2,500 right now. We only do that neighborhood assessment calculation when you're over 2 lots. That's why you'll see those numbers often much bigger.
Much, yes.
I didn't know that distinction, thank you.
Yeah, just only when we're doing one additional lot where there's an existing residence.
It's a flat rate.
Yeah, flat rate of $2,500. We did the referrals to the town engineer. Some minor, I'm sorry, I got this wrong, minor comments, so there'll be some minor changes, and then the 3-inch drainage for the covenants, which is pretty standard. Office of Fire Prevention said that there's public water and hydrants in the area. Conservation Board did notice some woodlands on the property, so they typically recommend buffers. They notice it's a high quality, high priority water quality improvement zone, so the septic system design will need to take that into account. They mention here the northern long-eared bat. I didn't get anything from the DEC, but we would typically incorporate the clearing restrictions that's required by the DEC as part of any approval.
What about number 2, Anthony, where the Conservation Board recommends a conservation easement or a natural?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that. I'll show, when I show you the aerial in the discussion, I'll go through that with you. They say it's in close proximity to the town park, and they recommend maintaining the existing hedgerow, which is located within that flag strip, which is fine. I don't think there's a problem with maintaining the hedgerow, but the board should know that that hedgerow doesn't block or provide a buffer to the adjacent town-owned open space. It's buffering the adjacent flag strip. There's a driveway between this property and the town, So I don't know if it's necessary, but maybe keep it up just to separate the driveways might be good. Trails Advisory had no comments, and we didn't get anything from the CAC, the Fire District, or the Health Department. So number 1, we would consider this.
Anthony, excuse me, if I could just interrupt. The comment from the Conservation Board about the IA system, it's because it's in a high priority area. Doesn't the county require that everywhere now?
Yeah, the
Yes.
county requires.
Yeah, I mean, they're still pointing it out in
Yeah,
their
well, it's just-
recommendations.
But I personally find that confusing. It should say that it has to be.
Yeah.
Because of the county
Yes.
health department rule,
Okay.
not because of it's a local town rule.
We'll note that, and we can start putting that in the reports. That's easy
Oh,
enough.
more importantly, the Conservation Board should be amending their,
Yeah, they should know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
let them
good.
know.
I could have that
Yeah.
discussion with them for sure. So this would serve as any comments to the ZBA if they choose to go in that direction. And of course, we pointed out the criteria for creating undersized lots with the ZBA. Again, I'll fix this. It says, again, the high priority water quality improvement. I'll fix it to reflect that it's a requirement under the county.
I mean, that just seems, that's a higher authority.
Yeah, it's a requirement now,
Yeah.
period, so we'll fix that. The common driveway, this was just, I buffered it just to, highlighted it just to show the board. I initially suggested, only because we have a common driveway right next to this one already, they're showing the common driveway here. I did initially recommend putting it up here, but the applicant was correct. Right now, this will just be a driveway next to a driveway, a common driveway, as opposed to a driveway going up
To
3
residences.
residences. So I
Yeah,
think
so
this is okay.
leave it. Mhm.
Common driveway there. The buffers. Right now, there's some hedge along the road, but other than that, there's not a lot of trees. Most of it comes in the back here and on the side. There is a hedge that's in the flag strip of what will be the flag strip of this subdivision. So if the planning board wants to maintain the hedgerow to keep a separation between the 2 driveways, that might be beneficial. And as for any other buffering, if you want, you could do it against, the northerly property and up here, and then.
So conservation is saying along the northerly lot lines.
Yeah, they're talking about right here and right here.
For deer movement corridor. That-
You know, as you look in this area, you know, the property's right behind here. There's no clearing restrictions in this area. So, you know, I leave it up to the board in this case. What do you think about the buffers? They would serve to just buffer adjacent
Is this
property
clear
areas.
cut? It's hard to tell from.
It's not clear cut,
But it does
but it
look-
can be clear cut.
It doesn't look like there's an awful lot of trees on that property.
No, it's not. There's some, and I get what the Conservation Board is saying. You know, this imposing buffers, when, you know, they're
How about the
really
rear of the property? I mean, we don't have a sort of a green.
You know, we could do a
Green
20-foot wide to be outside the building
Mm-hmm.
envelope anyway, if you want to do a buffer back here.
That's something,
Is that what the board thinks? Maybe
Yeah,
one back here?
yeah,
Makes sense.
And then the hedge within the driveway you can maintain?
yes.
Okay. You could do that.
I mean, all those plantings minimize erosion at some point.
For sure.
you know?
I'm going to try to keep up as many trees as possible. And then, of course, compliance with engineer, compliance with public safety regarding driveway, and then the final application should include the health department approval.
Is there anyone here to represent?
I don't know if Aaron Sachs was going to make it today. He didn't seem to have any objections when we
Okay.
spoke.
I'll move to adopt the report.
Motion by Dennis, second by
Second.
Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor. Kate, you've gone through it?
Yes.
Okay, 7 in favor.
The next one is 511 Farm LLC. This is actually just going to be an extension of the action deadline until July 28th.
Motion to extend to July 28th by Craig, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 7 in favor.
Thanks for that, Tom.
Sean
Sean Dunn.
Dunn,
This
Deadline.
is, we had a final application. This is a two-lot subdivision. This is a property on Apicock Point Lane in Hampton Bays. They submitted the final application. We did all the referrals. We got an existing lot back here, existing residence in the front, and then there'll be a flag lot to the back. Very similar to the other plan.
Just to be clear, it's in West Hampton?
I'm
or
sorry,
Hampton
West
Bays?
Hampton, sorry
Okay,
about that. I didn't mean.
good.
it's not on here.
Yeah, the
Do you-
report's not
Do
in
you have a
here.
report?
This printout is just from the packet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I sent everything separately, that was, send it off again.
Thank you.
There you go, sorry about that. This is an R40 zone. No overlay districts or anything like that. This is actually just the final approval of the two-lot subdivision. It's pretty straightforward. We'll just go to the findings. This is a type 2 action under SECRA, so no further environmental review. We deemed the final application complete in April, and we held, not waived, held a final hearing in May. No comments were received. The next one's about the adopted pre-application report, and this is in agreement with that report. The Zoning Board of Appeals granted relief for this subdivision. I only highlighted it because I wanted to put in the specific variances that were granted. So there was some dimensional for lot width, lot area, and then some setback relief. So I'll just put that in there. The next bullet point, Health Department approval was granted in February 4th of 2022, and includes covenants and restrictions that were filed as part of that approval. And again, I just want to put the date that they were filed in there, so I highlighted it. Not subject to Long Island workforce housing. And then again, this is another case for a payment of the park fee, which would be $2,500. We did the referrals, comments from the engineer. I will clarify this one and then fix the, on the one hand, oh no, he says he's providing, they want a 2-inch stormwater drainage for the proposed common driveway. And then they want a covenant for 3-inch drainage for all impervious surfaces. I just want to make sure that that's correct.
Yeah, why don't they just keep it
At 3 inches is my guess,
Makes-
and that's,
well-
I'll fix that accordingly.
Okay.
Anthony, with the comment from the Suffolk County Health Department, it says with individual septic systems, that should be IA, because it's February of '22. the rule was changed in,
It is, but the individual septic system is just a septic system, regardless of whether you call it I or whatever, that's the reason. It's just an individual septic system for
I
a house.
understand that, but to me.
I will
that-
change the language.
That implies that it's,
Yes.
you don't need,
The old one.
yeah.
We should just refer to them
We'll-
as
we'll-
IA.
I will fix
I
that.
just, I'm trying to be consistent with that.
Yeah.
Conservation Board,
I like it.
they mentioned in this case easements and large trees on the property. Let me just show you. This whole neighborhood is largely
Oh, yes,
ornamental
yes.
vegetation. It's clear. I don't see any reason to establish buffers in this particular case. There is no woodlands on this property. There's some sporadic trees in here, so that was just my opinion in this.
Are they going to chop them all down on that lot?
The building, most of those trees are sitting smack middle of this building envelope, so yes, those trees will likely come down.
So
The
conservation.
Conservation Board is suggesting that we identify the trees within here, but it's hard to preserve individual trees within
Yeah.
individual buildings.
Not good policy.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. I think that is.
Yeah.
How about just a general comment that where possible, maintain the mature trees?
Is that going to be a
I think so.
condition? I mean, you don't want to
Yeah.
impose a condition that then has to be enforced or, creates title issues.
But at least we're flagging it. If they can, they will,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could put in a comment that the applicant is recommended or they're, to
Yeah.
preserve as many of those.
Not that it's a
large trees.
condition,
Right.
but that,
Yeah, we could do that. It gets hard when you're doing these individual trees when they fall right in the middle of the building envelope.
can
Then
be-
it's-
Even when they don't, I mean.
Oh, you're right.
You get a situation where there's a big windstorm and now they're in violation, a title examiner will say, well, there's supposed to be a tree here and now there's no tree.
Office of Fire Prevention, there's public water and fire hydrants in the area. West Hampton Beach Fire District had no objections to the subdivision. Landmarks and historic districts didn't have any historic resources that were identified. And the Trails Advisory said there were no trail implications. So the final approval would have conditions.
Anthony, what are the two structures on lot 2? I can't really see it. Two existing structures?
There's an existing residence.
No, on lot 2, I'm talking about.
Oh, there's probably, I believe there were some structures to be removed, sheds and stuff like that, Dennis.
Okay, is that in the conditions, right?
They will go in the conditions
Okay.
if they're not in there
Prior to signature.
prior to signature. Thanks for picking that up. So we're going to put that in there, removal of the structures on Lot 2 prior to signature of the map. We're not going to do the buffers here. Any changes for the engineer, the postal delivery numbers have to go on the final map. A couple of map notations, one pertaining to the declaration of covenants and restrictions and the common driveway and utility easement. And then another notation regarding compliance with town zoning as modified by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Payment of the park fee, submission of the covenants and restrictions, which are all the standard ones in here. We're going to exclude the buffer, and we included the common driveway, obviously, covenants, which are pretty standard, compliance with the driveway standards from the fire prevention, submission of a common driveway and utility easement, submission of a mortgage consent if applicable, title certification, town attorney approval of all legal documents, and then submission of the Mylars and paper prints, which will be signed and then have to be filed within 62 days,
So you'll make a comment about the trees, right?
for sure.
How close is this to Aspetuck Creek?
That, off the top of my head, I don't know.
There's no,
Certainly there was obviously no wetlands or anything in the area, but I'm,
Pretty close,
pretty close, for sure.
yeah.
Aspetuck? Aspetuck's over by George. This is West Hampton.
Oh, this is West Hampton,
This is,
Closer.
it said Weesuck Creek, right?
Yeah, Merchant Bay.
Birches Bay.
It's Apicock Creek right now.
Yep, Apicock Point Lane.
oh, it's Aspetuck. Okay, sorry. Okay.
So I'll make those changes.
Anyone here to speak, wants to speak?
Susanna Herman said she wasn't sure she was going to take it.
Okay, she's seen the report. Okay, motion to adopt?
motion,
Motion by Gloria, and second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. The Bridgehampton Child Care Administrative Building, Anthony,
I'm not
number
supposed to hand these
12.
out since none of them made it. Sorry about that. I promise week after week that will be here. Trying. Kyle's here for this one. The board's familiar. This is 204 Butter Lane. This is an application for,
Building is beautiful.
yeah, it's a really nice building.
Beautiful.
Can I take one of those then? Sure.
I'm sure Bonnie is happy.
This is one of the-
LI 40 zone piece of property. It's got an existing barn building on there, an existing storage building with some informal parking right on the corner there of Tradesman Path, Butter Lane, in an industrial area. There's an application.
Jim,
Yep, application is for a physical fitness facility to change the use of this building to a physical fitness facility, which is a special exception use in the LI 40 zoning district. The applicant, this is a pre-submission conference, so no referrals, just some general comments about the site plan and the use. So no changes to the building. Let me see if I could. Plans prepared by Kyle, which shows the existing storage building and then the existing building. Right now, there's some informal parking between the two buildings up here in the north, and then on the south side, there's also some informal parking. As part of this application, the applicant is proposing to make improvements to formalize those parking, make the site function better, maintain to the maximum extent possible the 20-foot off of the road here, which has some nice street trees in there. If you've taken a look at the site, it's got some nice street trees in there. We could probably augment some of the landscaping. So I did the report. Like I said, there's no changes to the building being proposed other than interior to accommodate the gym. The application includes, I said, the formalization of a total of 18 parking spaces, where 36 are required. You might recall you had this discussion with the applicant. Well, we'll go through it in the report, actually. Okay. So it would be an unlisted action under SECRA. There's some information that has to be fixed in here. So the property is 36,000 square feet, LI 40 zoned. Describe the existing buildings. As I said, there's two accesses off Butter Lane right now for the two existing informal parking areas that are proposed to be improved. For a physical fitness facility with 18 spaces where 36 are required, so the applicant is looking to get relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We had a pre-submission conference in May 26th, and was closed with a 30-day written comment period. No public comments were received, although the planning board did raise questions. They had discussions with Kyle. First comment here talks about the requirement for 36 spaces, 18 are provided. If the applicant chooses to go to the zoning board, this would serve as the comments to the ZBA. Now, regarding the parking, the board had a discussion. I know that Jackie did a site inspection, so we had the applicant discuss how the business operates. So from what I understand, and it's written in here about the parking evaluation. They based their parking evaluation, they prepared a parking evaluation that was submitted with the pre-submission, and it's based on a business model as presented to the planning board with limited membership, scheduled classes, and hourly check-ins that are monitored to ensure the occupancy levels are maintained at an appropriate level. And that this would reduce the parking demand associated with the physical fitness facility. A boutique-style physical fitness facility, which will generate less parking. It was raised by the board that that's okay for the use that's currently proposed, but what happens, if the use was to change? And I think that, as I said in the report, the site plan condition would need to be imposed or a legal instrument filed to ensure the parking is linked to the physical fitness use as presented in this application. And I think that's
makes
what we did
sense.
as part of the application. The applicant will include the sign. I know there was an existing sign there. They should include it as part of this site plan application so we could approve
It's on the building.
I know, it's on the building.
No, it's very discreet. It's
Is it?
perfect.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
The storage building, the applicant indicated, and they counted for the parking calculation, that the storage building would be maintained as a separate, well, will it be maintained as a separate use, or is it going to be storage associated with the physical fitness facility? That was just a question to be raised. In light of recent trends due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we should include any area that they want to do outdoor fitness. We got a lot of inquiries about that over the last 2-3 years.
There is an outdoor tent that they use during the season,
Okay.
but that will be taken down, and I guess supplemental parking or parking will be put in that area. Well, Kyle will explain it to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
but I did see it, and so
Good.
it works.
Plans to upgrade the septic system was raised as a question. It's not shown on there. Special exception use, so they'll be subject to the special exception criteria, general and specific standards of the town code. It's an unlisted action under SECRA. In this case, there won't be a lot of involved agencies, so probably just do an uncoordinated review and have the planning board be lead agency. Landscaping, the 20-foot wide transition yard in the front. It looks nice out there. If you go, the building's really nice. I don't think we need to overdo it, but if we want to consider some augmenting in that buffer, the views themselves into the property look sort of nice. So I don't know that we'd gain too much by putting too many trees in there, but something. And then the lighting plan, of course. If anything is not to code, we bring it into code with the site plan. And that's what I
Anthony,
have. Yes.
the fact that this was not a healthcare, a fitness center facility, are they changing the bathrooms at all, or maybe you?
Yeah, we'll have Kyle.
Kyle?
There were, well, prior to this use, it was used as a private wine tasting club. At that point, they had put in bathrooms, so the bathrooms that were utilized for that are the bathrooms that are being utilized for the gym. It is not a gym that has a locker room, per se, or showers. They do have storage bins that you can place your purse or stuff like that, but no formal locker rooms. But they have unisex bathrooms available for the members of the gym.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reading what was in Anthony's report, and it didn't say anything about a wine tasting. So I was thinking that it was
That it
very
was.
passive use, and now we're gonna have a lot of people in there.
I think, like we said, with the condition or the site plan, legal instrument that says how this use is occurring on the site, by appointment, because I think it raises the question, like you said, about the parking on the property. But, I think some of the board members have looked into this. Equinox is,
It's a managed membership,
yeah.
private membership club, so they have a limited number that they can facilitate.
Yeah, as we talked about at the public hearing, and we went through the business operations of it, it's not it's not a Planet Fitness. It's not, people don't just come walk in off the street. It's pretty much by appointment. Or a large percentage of the occupancy is. That's not to say if one of the members came in just to go and work out, utilize the treadmills or some of the free weights, that could be done. But primarily, it's for classes. They run classes out of there. That's all by appointment, or private workout sessions with physical fitness professionals, trainers.
The bathrooms that were installed prior were county approved, so there's no need to add more bathroom use.
We are changing the use of the thing, so we will have to go back to the health department, and we'll see, what they are going to require us to do as it relates to the existing septic system.
Okay. That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
I mean, of the septic.
No,
tanks,
there's definitely, because of just the change in the occupancy
Yeah.
type, requires us to go back to the health department.
Thank you.
And we walked through the parking, Kyle, and it seemed to be okay. I mean, there were various places for parking. Do you just want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
well, the parking, again, as we went over the public hearing, back in August, so it was peak period of last year, they did a parking analysis with VHB, and that was presented and submitted with the application. The peak period of parking, and it was done over a weekend, as well as they selected one midweek day, and the highest peak parking demand for the site was 14 spaces. So we're providing 18, 16 exclusively for the physical fitness facility. And to get to Anthony's question, the storage, that is a CO for storage. We account for 2 spaces because it's 1,800 square feet, 1 space per 1,000. It's 1.9, you round up to 2. So there is 2 spaces accounted for the storage use.
And how many people are in the class at a time?
I don't know the answer to that, but with the way it's been functioning, it hasn't had an issue with, and how their operational model of it hasn't presented a issue with the parking demand as was demonstrated in the parking analysis.
So Kyle, they don't have daily or weekend memberships or admissions or anything, do you
No.
know?
Nope.
It's a 6-month or a year membership? Or
Correct.
something like that?
And they're
Correct.
not, and it doesn't function the whole year.
Yeah.
What we were told it closes like October or so, because
Yeah.
most of their members are.
It's pretty much
summer
a
people.
seasonal facility,
Seasonal.
Okay.
targeted towards summer
nice.
population memberships.
Coincidental
And the
to our
membership.
last meeting on this, I got a Facebook ad for it popped up on my phone the next day.
You can't hide, you know that.
Exactly.
The membership fee's a little steep. I was like, ooh.
Say, take me off the
We
list.
both talked about that, right. Okay, so are there any other questions from the board? Entertain a motion to accept this pre-app report is by Gloria, second by
Second?
Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
Jackie, before I go on to my last one, well, let me just, number 12, Bridgehampton Childcare Admin Building. I was taking care of that for Claire.
Yeah, yes, please.
Forgot about that.
That's what, for a minute, I thought,
Yeah,
that's why I said it's a
yeah.
beautiful building, and I'm thinking, what?
This is the Bridgehampton Childcare Administration.
That is a
building.
beautiful
That is a
building.
beautiful building. This is Claire's application. She has been to the property. They're asking for a modification to the site plan approval just to eliminate the maintenance bond requirement as a school. They've asked because of funding purposes.
Financial.
And, what I would say is that we would just still require that the landscaping be maintained and viable as a condition. This would need to do the maintenance on it.
So what happens if it all dies?
That's, that's a good question.
They'd have to replace it.
They'll have to replace it.
You
But
recall
we-
how much was the maintenance bond, do you recall?
That I don't know, because they probably just requested the waiver without giving us the.
Would we have any recourse if there's no maintenance bond?
Christine, on the maintenance bond.
Yeah.
Like I said, the condition is that the landscaping needs to be made viable in any site plan for 2 or 3 years is what we, require, then the bond is up anyway. So we would just, maintain the condition that the absent the
But
maintenance.
now, is this the policy, every church and nonprofit, we do a lot of church site plans, a lot of nonprofits.
Yeah.
Is that going to be, I'm just trying to anticipate what might be coming down the pike.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
We could have this discussion when Claire's back if you want to look into it a little more.
Could we have language to the effect that, that there would be a site inspection 12 months after the installation of the landscaping? And if it was not up to par, that they would have to replant?
Yeah, should I work on something,
Yeah, and
Christine?
put something in there
Yeah.
that they're
Yes.
comfortable with, they shouldn't be excluded from having to.
No, they have to,
Do you want me to do it for the next meeting then, try to come up with some language, and
I
then
mean,
put
I'm
it back on?
comfortable with that language, that it, that they need to maintain it, but
that's
that there
not-
has to be an inspection.
Yeah, I mean, you said, once it's planted, I think where I want to say is that in 2 years or whatever, we go back and look, and that's what the maintenance bond gives us, the
2 year.
leverage.
Anthony, there was no performance bond initially?
Probably not. We don't do performance bonds on the landscaping.
Well, isn't that what the maintenance bond is for?
The maintenance bond is, they calculate how much they spent on the landscaping, and we do it as a third, as a maintenance bond, but I'm pretty sure there's no.
Gloria, you're right, the concept, the maintenance usually is to ensure that the performance was done as it should be, so they're usually swapped out. for
They
each
are,
other.
but
But if they didn't do a performance bond, then, because I was gonna say, I don't know why they're completely excluded from it.
Christine.
Sorry.
You got the look. That's the look. We know it well.
Well, and what's the precedent? Are there other churches or nonprofits that have been given relief of the maintenance bond? Because
No.
it would be important for
We've
that
not.
to
We
be
do a lot of
considered,
them.
right?
Yeah, I think that opens the door for everybody to decide
Yeah,
what they want to.
I'm afraid so.
I think maybe you could bring it back.
I'll bring it back
Yeah.
next
And
time.
have Christine work on some language,
I'll do that.
okay? So there's no action.
There's no action. Does Jackie have, I don't have any other applicants here, so, I did yours. All right, I'll just continue then, since Jackie's not here.
So you're going to jump to
Yeah, you
number
have to start.
17 and 911 Flanders,
That's just an extension of the secret action deadline until August 25th.
extension to August 25th. Motion? Motion. Motion by Craig, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. August 25th, is that a correct date? Yeah,
I'll verify, it's the second meeting in August.
okay. And then you have Kim Lester.
Yeah, this is, you might recall you had a work session on Allenson Lane, property in the RWB zoning district, got an existing residence on there. They're before the zoning board. They lack lot area for a second use, and they're looking for, you might recall, a small, no racks, outdoor boat storage area on the property. You
Yes.
remember this?
Yes.
So they're before the zoning board, and they under secret, so I made them coordinate with the planning board, so the planning board could be the lead agency here. So the dry boat storage area is going to be 11,964 square feet. It's going to be for a total of 22 boats ranging in size from 23 to 25 feet maximum, and maintaining the wetlands setback. We don't have a formal site plan yet, so we're going to get into the site plan issues, buffering and all the rest of it. This was a secret for the zoning board, so they could proceed with the application. Given the limited size of the boat storage area, it's only 11,000 square feet of the property. There's going to be no racks, there's be conditions in there. It's a dry use, it's just got an existing residence on there. I did the short form, and it didn't identify any significant environmental impacts. So I was recommending a negative.
Do you have an aerial?
Yeah. Let me see if I could zoom in, does that help? So the existing residence is over here, and obviously we're not going to have two curb cuts and all the rest of it when we do the site plan, but the boat storage is going to be in the front here.
There's no launch, is there, from here?
No.
And are
No.
the boats, like your oil and gas evacuated from the boat where it's stored? Is that,
We have the applicants actually.
oh, great.
Yeah. You gotta go.
For the applicant, Susanna Herman and consultants, yes, I think they would have to do that. It would be over winter storage, so they would drain the boats, and it'd be 100 feet back from the wetlands. So it should be relatively innocuous that way,
You don't do the winterizing on the premises, right? All the winterizing is done off premises?
off premises.
100 feet from the wetlands. Where, we don't have a site plan on this, where the
No, we do.
boats are intended to be?
We just had the wetlands redelineated by the Environment Division.
That's the plan right there, Jackie. It shows the wetland setback.
And the 11,964 square foot area for the boats, how did you calculate that?
That's just the area that they've shaded here, where they would store the boats. See? That's 11,000 square feet.
But
So
is there any
one row,
regulation
two
that
rows?
dictates?
Is there I mean, we can't see from this. Are there
Oh,
rows of boats?
Yes,
Two rows
they're,
of
the boats would be just sitting on their trailers and would be part, there's a little sketch that I did
Okay, you did.
from the work session that we had.
Is it going to be on gravel, Susanna?
Yeah.
Gravel, okay.
Again, it's a resort waterfront business district, so it's a permissible use. We're in front of the zoning board of appeals because we are having 2 uses per property.
No bottom painting, no bonnet
No,
removal?
no, they're not going to be maintaining, this is just a local family that happens to have extra space and is trying to get additional income through renting out the space for overwinter storage.
What's on either
Yeah.
side?
There is a residence to the north, and to the south is like cottages.
So it's residential on both sides. Did we have a public hearing on this, Anthony?
they have it at the zoning board. We don't have an application.
You'll have it. Well, I'm sure those residences are not going to be terribly happy to look at boats.
They haven't showed up to the zoning board so far.
No,
Well, and there's some hedges and they're not
There
wrapped,
is-
right? So it's not visible from.
right. In the zoning hearing, I presented photographs. There's very dense hedging, especially to the north along those property lines. Those are single-family residences. And dense woods on the property to the northwest. There's also a lot of boat storage and marina use in this neighborhood. If you look around in the area, it's a lot of marinas, a lot of boats. If you look 2 properties to the south, you can see that lot is almost covered with boats
Is
on
Allenson
land.
off of Shinnecock or just can you orient based on Springville? Is it on that area over by Ram Pasture?
Can you
What's that?
blow,
Can you zoom out?
No, this is the sheet right there.
So what are the larger roads that are closer to there?
There's,
I'm
this is
blanking.
Allenson. There's
Allenson, it-
Molinairs,
Right.
Marina's down here with the restaurant.
The, what used to be Allen's Acres is across the canal there.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Foster leads to Pond Club Bridge,
Right,
the one right there.
Mhm.
And then so you're south of Shinnecock.
right.
Right, south
That,
of,
which it
thanks,
is
Jackie.
consistent with a lot of the use in that area. And if it's not racked and they're all fully evacuated,
There'll be
uh,
ground.
you know, of the oil, and there's no maintenance being done on the property, it seems pretty consistent with what's going on there.
you have turning radius, sufficient turning radius to get in there and out of there?
That's gonna be
Yeah,
tricky.
and again,
That's
they're,
very
they're
tricky.
small
It's pretty
boats,
packed.
so they may have to pull one out to get the next one in and out.
I think they're gonna have to shuffle.
Yeah, they would shuffle, and it's, again, they would bring them there at the end of the boating season and leave them there
Just so the
until-
board knows, these are very good site plan issues that will all have to be addressed. The question is, will this project have a significant environmental impact? That's basically what we're doing.
Well, and as
my
long as
question
there's
about-
no maintenance
about
or,
Shuffling and moving boats around is that you get closer and closer to the 100-foot setback to the wetlands. So how do you ensure that that's maintained?
There's coming with trailers.
but the environmental impact would be if the boats still had gas or oil or any kind of chemical in them and were being moved around in that way. But if they're being fully winterized, and I don't know how that gets policed, but
Well, that's
that would be an important
always a
Almost
lot.
consideration.
self-policing.
Well, there'll be conditions, no on-site,
Yeah.
maintenance of the boats, no on-site
No chemicals.
chemicals.
And what's between the boats and the, I guess to the east of the boats there, where they'll be backing them in? What kind of surface is that? Is that just dirt?
Right now, it's all,
It's all lawn.
Whatever it is, it's gonna get
Gravel, I think.
driven over a lot of cut and icing. Looks like a New York City parking lot.
You can
Well,
see
and
how they maneuver those
that Doug
cars around.
Canal connects to where? And that,
That comes out on the west side of Shinnecock Bay.
right.
And the only trailer not blocked?
I don't think so. I think they want to keep it very simple.
Yeah.
We'll
I
have
mean,
to
the only
back 'em
other-
in and fill the row closest to the street first, and then fill the second row. And so there'll be a lot of cutting and
Valet parking.
turning.
Is there, yeah, is there any sense to have them put a delineating fence to contain the boat area?
Will that be a site plan issue or just
That's a
a
site-
secret?
No, it is, but I,
is,
but,
but
but,
it's a
that-
point.
but it's good to discuss it. Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely impose fencing
To keep that,
to keep encroachment within the 100, within the 100-foot setback of the wetlands.
that's what concerns me in secret, you know, the environmental impact of,
I mean, the real
Creeping
environmental,
in.
potential environmental impact is some kind of spill that would then, go into the groundwater and right into that creek, which then goes into
Right.
Shinnecock Bay. So I don't know if there's any kind of precedent related to boat storage.
Well, I
We
can-
don't want to ding
Susanna,
somebody
can
that's
you-
trying to, make some
provide
extra money, but just to make
Some more
sure that it's safe.
information about how this facility is going to operate?
Sure.
Yeah.
If
Well,
I
it
can
would
just
be really
interject for a
helpful.
minute, I'm the finance manager at Whitewater Marine, and we do
Mm.
an awful lot of winter storage. And the first thing you do with the winter storage is you winterize the boat, so all the fluids come out, because if they're left in there, the boat's going to be damaged.
Right.
Right? In terms of moving boats around, it's a pretty impressive symphony. You'd be surprised, say, oh, there's no room. There's room. They get it done. So when I see them stacked like that, I'm like, oh yeah, they can get them out of there. But in terms of environmental impact, to what Kate's point is, the boats have to be winterized before they get there. If there are fluids in there, those fluids are going to drop on the floor.
is that their business model?
They don't really have a business model. Like I said, this is a family who has this property and is looking for additional income. So if that's, I do believe that they fully intend to winterize everything, and based on what you're saying, that would be imperative. And
Yeah, if
that
you
would be
care
my.
about your boat to winter
Right.
store it, you'll winterize them.
Right, so the boats would be winterized, and if a condition involves fencing or anything of that nature, I think they're completely open to it.
Okay.
This is very, it's a very mom and pop operation. We're not talking about a marina. There's no intention to run a marina. They just have extra space, and they're trying to get some financial benefit from it.
I understand, but I'm
Okay.
also concerned about wetland vegetation.
Right.
Not being tamped down, not being,
I think that's a
affected.
valid concern, and I would propose at least a post and rail fence
Yeah.
along the
exactly,
perimeter.
to contain the boat storage.
I think
And I
if it
think
was a
condition-
stockade, it would actually be more visually
Oh, yeah, no,
jarring.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's not, and I think a condition that they're not winterized on site. They come
Right.
winterized.
Right.
To Kate's point. I
Right.
think.
So those are modifications, I think, on the secret review. And
Is this planning board want to impose conditions on the neg deck? Because if you do, we'll have to put it off to next time. That's a
I don't
different,
think it's necessary.
we can make findings.
Make it in the findings.
Okay, do that.
I mean, that still holds. This is,
They're
Pretty much.
winterized off-site.
Site plan
Right.
issues.
Right.
I mean, I know that's.
You okay
what
with that,
you
then?
want to do, but I think we should have it in writing.
Right. And
All right,
a split
I
split rail fence designating the wetlands.
All right, so a delineation with the split rail fence to prevent encroachment, the winterizing of the
Off-site.
off-site,
no storage of chemicals or things on-site.
Right.
okay.
And you're gonna get another shot at this, because once we get through ZBA, we're coming back for.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
site, well, then, so you already know ahead of time. Okay, so we're looking not at a conditional neg deck.
Right, just a
Change
neg
this,
deck
This is a
then.
neg deck. Any other comments, questions? Can I have a motion to, motion to consider the neg deck for secret determination for Kim
Second.
Lester? Motion by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed,
Aye.
abstentions, 7 in favor.
And then I just have two quick,
You have you have 90-day extension for Kamachuto.
Kamakutiko is just an extension. It is the 12th. This is the one up on North Sea Mecox. The board knows about the subdivision. They're doing the improvements of the road rather than bonding, so we're sort of left now sort of doing these extensions. So this will just do another 90-day until August 3rd.
Motion.
That's 90 days?
That's not
No.
90 days.
It is from June 5th, it is, when it, I should have said that, I'm sorry. That's when it's retroactive from June.
We are
5th.
paying attention.
It was a
Second.
test.
So from June 5th to August 3rd, so that would be,
90 days.
It is.
Did I get the date wrong?
No, that's actually. that's only
you
6
must,
days.
it's only 60 days.
Okay, I'll fix the
That's why
date
it's
there.
September.
September, yeah. Anthony, was it the last meeting that you were hung up on December? Every
It
time?
was, and I probably brought that with me to, I'll fix it.
So this is September,
It'll be September, yeah.
okay. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Craig, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention.
And the next one too, I see what I
Favor?
did. I did 60-day extensions, so basically,
August,
At-
September,
So this one,
October.
so number 21,
We'll go to October.
the hat trick is gonna be from,
July to October.
to October, yeah, and I'll put the correct date in there.
July to October, and this is, what, a 90-day extension?
It'll be a
Yeah.
90-day, the fourth one for this.
Okay, motion
Motion.
by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions,
They messed up those dates.
7 in favor. Then Jackie just has 2, right? You have the Klug barn, wait,
We have,
Do you need it?
oh no, you have several.
Do you need this?
I do, just to get in my documents.
Oh, so you can.
You have M4 lumber, do you want to start with M4 lumber?
Yes, we can go in order.
Do you have everything you need to write from that?
I think so.
Yeah, she has 4, I think,
Yeah,
which I haven't read anything.
M4 lumber. Memorial
Yep.
You got it?
Square.
Mhm.
It's in
Oh, yes,
Hampton,
yes.
and it was a complicated engineering system. She has a revised.
So the board will remember, we looked at this actually last May and then had a presentation in August about the fact that there's a swale coming across this property. And actually, we were aware of this swale here, which had been planned for, but there's actually almost like a convergence, like a Y, across this property. So with that, we actually asked the applicants to make some revisions, and then we had a concept plan to allow that water to passively move under the common driveway. And then we had just received plans from Mike Ponte and Engineering and Fox Land Surveying, and they just hadn't quite matched up. So we asked them to provide those plans. They provided them earlier this month, and I just got comments from Engineering that they are ready to go with some minor changes, but just some minor grading issues where there's essentially going to be almost like a bridge over a culvert. So we just wanted a little bit more minor grading at that point, rather than it going like up a hill and then down a hill. Just give it a little bit more gradual grading, and therefore less, less of a slope, basically, for cars too.
It'd be like a culvert, though.
Yeah, it'll be like a culvert or a bridge. So they actually have 2 options. There's ones that's almost like a U-shaped bridge culvert, or there would actually be like a culvert pipe underneath it. But all would accommodate the amount of flow. And if anyone's familiar with this area, in some rainstorms, there's heavy flow,
Yep.
and a lot of it is coming from the woodlands and farmlands to the north. And there's actually an easement and a culvert that goes under Scuttle Hole Road that also impacts this property. We also did the subdivision of Willentis and Engelbrecht, which is here. So we actually preserved, and you can actually, we went over this kind of, but I'm giving you a recap. But you could actually tell, like, farmers didn't mess with this area. They left the natural vegetation alone, which is why on Willentis and Engelbrecht, in this location, we kind of left the trees where they were. And then, so these drainage easements now are going to essentially meet up with that conservation easement that's low-lying, and we'll just let the water passively pass over. But we wanted to make sure we weren't damming it up. We also wanted to make sure we were reinforcing some of those areas that are going to be, some is going to have gravel, essentially. So we designed it and worked really hard, basically, over the last year to get everything ready for approval. And I wanted to make sure it didn't modify any of the drainage easement areas. So You can see now here we have, there's a little finger of the ag reserve that pops up right here. But this is where the water is coming in here, and then it will go under that driveway and then passively drain this way. And then we've got a drainage easement which will impact Lot 1. I really also didn't want it to straddle two property lines so that property owners have to coordinate their landscaping. I wanted it to really be on the one lot that was aware of it, rather than somebody landscaping half of it and then it not working. But then this is a driveway, so essentially there's going to be a bridge or a culvert here, and then a bridge or a culvert here. And we actually already reviewed the conditional approval and I distributed it. So there was no other real remaining issues other than the drainage, making sure the drainage easements in the common driveway were ready to be approved.
When are these improvements going to be installed?
This would be just standard covenants that would be prior to a building permit or C of O for the house. So,
How many, could you pull up the map again, Jack?
sure. There's 4 lots.
So which lot triggers, which building permit triggers the,
Any lot to be sold would trigger it, or any lot to come in
oh,
for
it's
building
conveyance-
permit,
It's
yeah.
conveyance covenant?
Yeah, we have the kind of the standard language, clearing and drainage and everything prior to conveyance, then everything else prior to a C of O. But I can go to that if you wanted, let's see. I kind of just have, so it's clearing, grading at some base of the common driveway prior to conveyance, construction of common and utilities prior to conveyance, construction of common driveway prior to the issuance of C of O. So one house gets built, they have to finish the common driveway. And then just compliance with driveway
Think
safety.
about that a little bit. We're going to be dealing with potentially four separate property owners.
Mhm.
Who may or may not want to undertake this is more than just grading and putting in a driveway.
Mhm.
There's some,
Yeah.
substantial culverts.
Maybe the applicant can talk to
Oh,
the plans for the owner, if they're going to be sold or if they're going to be developed internally. Brian, they're concerned with the phasing of the common driveway?
And I have a question that it ties
This is more
in,
than
Might be
Sure.
conveyance rather than-
with who maintains the culverts?
Oh, it will be in the common driveway, that it would be a shared maintenance cost among
Shared
everyone.
For the 2 culverts?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, we actually expanded the common
Brian,
driveway.
just identify.
Yeah,
yourself,
Brian
please.
Lacasio with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant.
Right,
And you can actually see on the site plan, we actually extended the common driveway and drainage easement significantly to the west, because that's where the second
Over here.
engineered drainage area is with the culverts. So that's all going to be burdened by the common driveway easement that all 4 lots benefit and burdened by and are responsible to maintain.
So they're concerned with, if the property is sold, that the first person in is going to have to construct all of the common driveway and bear the cost of that. But I was wondering if you could speak to the anticipated development, if it's all going to be developed by the same entity, or the first house would be,
I mean, there is no concept as of yet. It's one owner owns it. He will be developing lot 1. That's why we positioned the easement on his lot, because he's kind of familiar, has been down this road and understands the benefit of this drainage easement.
that's the western lot?
That's the eastern lot.
Eastern lot.
The western lot is already improved. So we really only potentially be dealing with 2 lots.
and the owner is fully aware, he's actually been very involved in
Yeah.
this whole process about, what's going on and the design.
Best mechanism is to get these improvements
Put in,
Mhm.
put in.
yeah, they should be installed,
More than just, running a driveway. These are,
yeah.
Yeah.
these culverts are-
and it impacts, more importantly, it impacts areas off this property. These culverts aren't installed and inspected properly, then all of a sudden you're gonna have water backing up and flooding adjoining properties.
Yeah.
So what exactly are you proposed, sorry,
I think our comfort level is to get the common driveway,
prior to issuance of a building permit, common driveways
well, as part of
built?
as part of the subdivision.
Prior to signature of the plat?
Yep.
I mean, I think that, this has been such a long road, and,
If it's prior to building permit, though, that means they have to construct it prior to the first person building anything. So that's a way of, letting them build when they want to, but knowing that the first lot to come in to build has to build it all.
has to build both culverts. even
Well,
Well, because
though-
Dennis is saying he wants it fully improved and done
Yeah.
correctly before anyone can
I-
build
I
here.
Well,
agree.
think of it as,
because-
let's consider this as if it were a road.
Mm-hmm.
How would we do that? We would either require construction, like Kamakudo's doing,
Mm-hmm.
or we would bond it.
Although houses are being built at the same time as the road in many instances.
I know.
But the town engineer is always giving us updates of how so generally, what our standard is to make sure it's clear and graded and passable. But this is unique because we want to make sure it's clear and graded and passable as well as the passive water flow going underneath the
That's the
driveway.
more important part of this particular construction.
But if you can do the so the normal clearing and grading, if the clearing and grading could have language to also include the necessary culvert system, because it could still be a rough grade on top. It doesn't have to be a finished product while everyone's building their houses, which is what people generally avoid. They don't want to have the perfect lift of asphalt when they're driving construction vehicles to the home. But if we at least have the grading
Grading and
and
the
the
subsurface
stabilization as well as the load-bearing culverts that have been approved by the town engineer. So if we added language to that effect, I think that may solve some of your concerns,
Practically
Dennis.
to bond this, like we would with a road.
We generally don't on private common
Typically
driveways.
you don't, but
Yeah.
here you have a unique situation. I'm just concerned,
But then how long are we holding the bond? Because it is the choice of the owner when they're going to build. They might build immediately, which then the bond would be released immediately, but then some people use this for estate purposes where they're not going to build immediately.
What is, Brian, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I don't want to impose this as a condition of sign of the map. I just don't think it's fair at this point, because I don't think the applicant honestly knows his true intent yet. It was originally estate planning. It may not be at this point, because it's been such a long road that this application's been before you. But I don't see how, if it's a condition prior to any issuance of any building permit, I don't see how that wouldn't allow this to be done in a way that the driveway is there before any work is done. For example, he wants to bring in an investor to purchase one or two of the lots. That may be the person funding this. If this prevents him from that, then he may be.
So we always require clearing, grading, and subbase. That's not really difficult to meet in
Yep.
this case because the driveway's already there and it's clear, it's a farm field essentially in the
but
front.
that would include the culverts, right?
But what I'm thinking is, that's prior to conveyance, so up to the board, I can add another covenant that's basically says the important culvert structures that allow the water to pass. I could add that covenant, but it's up to the board whether or not you're comfortable to prior to conveyance or prior to building permit. But remember, anyone who buys this will have the advantage of seeing these covenants, so they'll know what they're getting
The
into.
owner might want to, the owner's going to want to start construction before conveying, while he still has title on that lot.
But that's why, so we can require clearing, grading some base of the common driveway prior to conveyance or building permit, and then I can add in language, and I'll talk to Tom to just have a proper verbiage of what he wants to be done to make sure that that culvert is safely installed.
Okay, and
Because
are-
essentially, like, you'll do a rough grade of it, you'll install that.
You could all make a case here that grading actually includes the culvert, because that is
Yeah.
actually
Mhm.
the finished grading.
Also, Jackie, we need to build in some sort of inspection protocol, so.
That's already taken
Engineer.
care
That's
of
in-
through
that's in
engineering.
here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
engineering already does that. So prior to any construction, they have to contact them 48 hours, and there's actually, like a
for the
separate
drive-
process.
For the culverts.
Yeah, and they have to be inspected. So if I put clearing, grading, and subbase and construction of the culvert, and I'll work on the wording with Tom, I could say prior to conveyance or building permit, whichever occurs first.
Okay.
So that way, we can ensure that it's graded properly and that.
I'd
the
rather
water
be
can get
strictly
under.
to the permit.
Building permit?
Yeah, I'd rather not prevent my client being able to convey one or two of the lots.
Well, clearing and grading subbase is generally the prior to conveyance, but we can say then clearing.
The
grading,
culverts is kind of what I'm concerned about. but
Construction of the culverts prior to building permit?
Building permit?
Now, does the engineer say that this system operates only when the two culverts are installed?
Well, right now, the driveway is low in those two spots, and there's one existing culvert. So it already kind of passively flows over. But to make sure we're building a proper common driveway, we are essentially approving a culvert system. So there's one culvert now.
System, right.
Yeah, and
That's
then
what I
there's
meant.
one area that dips naturally. So I think the culvert's right here, right, Brian?
Yep.
But then this part is low-lying, so it passes over passively. But I would want both culverts in. I don't want to mess around with one or the
Yes, I
other.
think you want a
Yeah.
system, a culvert system installed.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what we've been working so hard
And then
on.
who is responsible for it? I mean, it goes back to the initial question.
Well, if it's prior to building permit, it would be the person who's building first would have to put in the
So
culvert
if someone
to make
buys
sure the
lot
water.
2, they're responsible to put in the culvert system.
Whoever builds or conveys first, essentially, right?
Yeah, if they want a building permit, it'll have to be installed. The
Yeah.
driveway will have to be.
And they'll-
Culverts, yeah, correct, yep.
Yeah, and they'll be on alert with this covenant. So I can leave the clearing, grading, and sub-base prior to conveyance, and then I can say the construction of the culvert prior to building permit.
Isn't the sub-base, don't the culverts have to go in before the sub-base?
And if you're grading up to the top of the culvert, that'd be,
Yeah.
that'd
That
be
means
part
culvert
of
is
the
in.
paving.
So I can merge that all together and say prior to building permit. I have to admit, right now, I'm not concerned with people safely getting to these lots because I've driven there. It's passable. These are usually when you have to take down significant amounts of trees, and the burden on the person who's purchasing the lot shouldn't be the burden to clear the initial driveway. But I can say clearing, grading, sub-base, and construction of the full culvert system prior to building permit. That way, it's all done and graded, and the water can pass under it
And
safely.
the engineer has submitted the kind of culvert and
Yes,
system that he
yes.
wants.
Yeah, we worked diligently on that, yeah.
You have that?
And there's actually two, like, so there's the general culvert, which is the pipe, and then there's also more like an archway system. So they haven't decided which one, but both of them have been approved by the town engineer.
And is there any kind of an easement that's,
It's a common driveway easement.
no, but the property,
Oh,
To the
there's a
south.
drainage easement, yeah. So we expanded the common driveway, and then these are the drainage easements right here.
And they're
See how
going to be
they kinda-
controlled by a recorded declaration. So there's going to be a common driveway and drainage declaration recorded that these 4 lots are burdened by. And that's why we expanded it into Lot 4. So all 4 lots, so like, for example, Lot 4, it doesn't bear the burden of the eastern drainage soil, which actually is where the majority of the water comes from.
Yep.
Which is kind of what we learned when we, and this was given under, because we actually had this lot approved with only the western drainage soil. And I think 1 culvert, and then after further look, when it sat for a while, it kind of opened our eyes to where the water actually comes from, and that's, why we got where we are today.
Yep.
But that was the whole intent of expanding the drainage easement.
Yeah, so there is
Lot 4.
improvements that are needed here that will have to be shared and maintained by everyone, because if this is not maintained properly, it will affect these 2 lots.
I believe
If
one
this
of
one's
Tom's
not-
comments spoke to establishing the access point for Lot 4 within that area. We just received his comments this morning, so forgive me for being.
I put them in here. The driveway, so it's on page 7, because we just got this from Tom this morning. The driveway paved portion for Lot 4 shall be constructed. There's an existing house, and that access must be provided to. Fox shall transition the grade before and after each crossing in a gentler manner. The current 7% total grade change may cause vehicle bottom out, and Fox shall draw the culverts to scale in the profile. So those were the 3 things that he wanted covered before he'll actually stamp the plans, but otherwise, the plans were in good shape.
is he concerned at all that there might be a burden on the southern property? The property? to
No,
the
I
south?
mean, the whole, right now, it passively flows. So our whole intent was to let that be and not stop that, not dam it up, but make sure that there was a way for it to passively flow over the.
We had an in-depth modeling, Mike Bonchi's here if you need him to speak, but we had an in-depth modeling of the water analysis to make sure the water will in fact flow and continue and pass on as it does.
Yeah, so the initial, so the watershed flow, we've looked at that, that was actually last August. Then you basically said, all right, work out the design. We worked out the design over the fall and the winter with Mike Bonte's team, and then basically over the late winter and spring, we've been trying to make sure that's cohesive with the common driveway plan, which Fox was preparing. So we have looked at this, and we've been diligent with this. But I think the timing issues you guys brought up with the culverts prior to building permit, I think that's
Yeah.
smart in this case. This is a unique situation where there is a significant watershed moving over this property. But essentially, this crosshatched area is the common driveway easement, so everyone will share in the maintenance that's required by that through this covenant. And then the drainage easements will be separate documents, which will allow people to go in there and, augment as needed, clean out.
And
essentially,
maintain.
And maintain. Yeah. That's the benefit of a drainage easement, is that you can go in, instead of leaving it alone, it might get silty.
So this will be clear that anybody who's might purchase a lot and wanting to build on it, the first person who's putting in for a building permit will need to do
Yeah, so
all
I-
the
The
improvements.
system,
Yeah, so the covenant, I'm going to change.
Well, he would have his prorational share, though. If the current owner owns 3 of the lots, he presumably would have 3/4 of the responsibility under
That's
the,
how this is gonna work?
Yeah, well, it's an equal share, so whoever.
I mean, the
has-
developer may foot the bill, but we can have a mechanism where, I mean, it's pretty common in any common driveway agreement.
It's an equal share.
Same with like, if like lot 4 is developed last and the driveway's damaged, you'd have to restore it as part of his construction. And I think those are all common concepts that are dealt with, and that would be addressed in the drainage easement and the common driveway easement.
Those are usually handled by private party agreements anyway.
Our general common driveway just has equal shared maintenance for everybody, so that everyone would have
Yeah,
shared.
but I'm talking about construction costs,
Mhm.
upfront.
Oh, but if we require it prior to building permit, it's essentially the first person in
Yeah,
has
first
to do
one
that.
to file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I can change the clearing grading in some base. I'll just add construction of the culvert system properly.
what page is that,
Right,
Jackie?
this is page
Page 9.
9. It's like the third bullet from the bottom. So I'm gonna change that bullet and add language and construction of the proper culvert or bridge prior to building permit. So that essentially means that all your clearing, grading, stabilization is going to have to be done with the culvert system in place prior to a building permit. Okay.
Prior to building permit.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any other questions on this, Brian?
No, otherwise I was, it's what we've been working towards the state, so we're satisfied with it.
Yeah, and I did have advisory covenants, that it's next to the farm, and also that the lots may be subject to flooding, because we're looking at the watershed here. And also that lots 1 and 4 shall share in maintenance common driveway, which has been specifically designed for the passive flow of stormwater, and lack of maintenance may impact the overall stormwater. So there's an advisory covenant, like, hey, you guys need to maintain this for it to work
So
properly.
you use the words culvert system?
I said a lack of maintenance may impact the overall stormwater flow. I didn't say culvert system, but,
That's important, because this whole thing works around a culvert system.
okay, I'll add that in. So I'll say advisory covenant, lots 1 through 4, share and maintenance of the common driveway, which has been specifically designed for passive flow of stormwater, and a design culvert system, comma, lack of maintenance may impact overall stormwater. I'll add that in right there.
Jackie, can you just
Sure.
confirm for me, the town engineer does not recommend engineering approval at this time in his memo. Then you have in the resolved clauses 3, 4, and 5 all seem to reference the points he'd made in his memo. So we're covered by,
Well, he recommends approval now, just as of today, which is, he didn't recommend it before.
Yeah, and I think it was that March of like,
is there another?
it's,
Yeah, so if you look on the top of page 7, it's literally, I got it this
Okay,
morning.
top of page, okay,
Okay.
I missed that, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that was just added in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, so you have to comply with engineering comments prior to signature. He has to stamp approve the plans, which is common, prior to signature.
Okay.
Where are you on page 7?
Yeah, I was on, top of page 7 is the new stuff that I just read into the record from the engineer this
They did
morning.
today.
And then, yeah, he did it today. And then I added the language to the bullet on the bottom of page 9. And then I'm adding the culvert system and the specific design to the advisory covenant, the last bullet on page 10. Are you guys comfortable with the changes?
Any other questions? Brian, any other comments?
no,
Okay. So could I have a motion to approve this as amended by George, second by Dennis? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
thank you all. Jackie, thank you.
This was a very long,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been a long
Happy to be here
road.
the
today.
swales, thank you.
That's quite a history. Take care.
That swale coming through
Yes.
Bridgehampton on Butter Lane is like a torrent.
Oh,
Gosh.
you know when you really.
It still floods under the railroad
Yeah.
track.
Early March. when the ground is like concrete. All these fields are like concrete, and you get the heavy rainstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Everything,
You're
100%
right,
runs off.
Yeah,
right?
it's
100%
all
runoff.
runoff.
Early March, go out there,
And the swale itself, I mean.
because all the agricultural fields are locked in ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
concrete.
all the back roads, I mean, you go down
Yeah,
Deerfield,
oh,
you know, the town has put a lot of drainage, so it's better, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
Still not
I had my
good.
neighbor lose a car in there.
Really?
Yes.
So next on the agenda, I have Firestar Holdings.
okay.
Here is the resolution. And actually, there's a payment as well.
Okay.
Trying to eliminate paper.
Paperless world.
And that's going, oh,
Do you have enough time, Sandy?
focus on that.
We can share that if somebody needs one.
Oh, yeah. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I'll share it.
Just an extra.
We'll share it.
Oh, we can share.
Can you make sure?
Craig and I can.
Oh,
These are the maps. Oh, yeah, you and I can share.
Be more social when it's all over. And it isn't over. I know that.
Okay, so this is at 70 Meeting House Road in the hamlet of Quiog. This is just a little bit west of the two churches right there. This is like the back way into West Hampton, if some are familiar. This is a 3-lot subdivision, so you can see the surrounding predominant land use is single-family dwellings, but we've got the two churches here and here. So as we zoom in, you can see it's fully wooded, and I have to admit, there was, nice mature vegetation here when I inspected the property. And there's also a nice wooded character along the road, which we're trying to retain with preservation of the native vegetation along the road, and then also recommended for a buffer to come up here and add to the existing buffer to the north. Oops, sorry. So this is the plan that we're looking at. Right now, it's proposing a 30-foot conservation easement on the map. And then there's a 20-foot buffer because a lot of the improvements along here are very close and there's existing residences. So acting almost like as a wildlife corridor as well as an aesthetic buffer to not have the driveway immediately adjacent to those existing homes. It then widens to a 25-foot buffer here and wraps around and essentially still gives very good building envelopes. We did ask them to give a little bit deeper building envelope for this one to expand it, because if you recall, it was like a triangle, which still had a building envelope, but it wasn't very regular in size. But we still accomplished 28,000 square feet in the bulk of both of these lots in an R20 zoning district. So technically, we are waiving the flag lot policy that requires 30,000, but as you can see, these are nice, well-shaped lots. And then the bulk is in excess of the 20,000 square foot requirement. By 8,000 square feet, which I think was a better design feature than squishing this front building envelope into this triangle. So that was in the pre-application report. And then going to the resolution here, this is the description of the property, which is 2 acres, tax map number 373-314.1, R20 zoning district. This is a description of the lots, as you just saw on the map. It has health department approval, which was acquired on February 10th, 2022, and expires on February 10th, 2023. It is a type 2 action, so no secret review is required. They did have a public hearing on this at July 9th, 2020 at the pre-application stage. We did have members of the public there, but mostly they were concerned with the impacts on the surrounding residential lots. I do have the park fee, let's see here, oh, this is a full yield plan. This is where I made the finding about the shape of the lots though, because 28,000, even though it's not meeting the 30,000, I made a finding that the planning board is in support and waives the formal flag lot policy, and that the lots are all in excess of 20,000 square feet in the bulk for lots 1 and 2. Next is the park fee, which this is a 3-lot subdivision, so it doesn't qualify for the flat per rate fee. So it's $16,225.01 per lot. I did charge upon the 3 lots, but Wayne has reminded me that there is a portion in the town code that if they can produce a single and separate search showing that this lot has been held in single and separate ownership, that basically it can only be charged, it can be charged only against the 2 new lots, essentially grandfathering the existing lot and then paying the fee based upon the 2. So I can add language to that effect, which I made notes of that already. So with 2 lots, if he provides a single and separate search, it would be $32,450.02. If they can't provide that, it would be the 48. So I can augment that language in that finding. The application is in substantial agreement with the pre-application report. They took all the recommendations of the pre-app report. They also worked on the common driveway in the interim, which was helpful so that there wasn't so many revisions at the final application stage. And there was a meeting, public hearing on May 26th. There was no public comments received at the public hearing, which was closed with a 10-day written comment period, during which no comments were received written. So fire prevention had standard comments, and the property is served by existing water and fire hydrants. West Hampton Beach Fire District said they had no objections to the request. The engineer just also got me comments today regarding a speedies requirement and monuments. So, and then we just were double checking that they had paid the engineering review fee. I did just get this, actually, so I didn't have this covenant pulled in for the coverage under speedies. So I can pull this language into the covenant area, because I just got this and didn't have the benefit of this until recently. So number 6, just regarding the speedies compliance, I'll pull that into the conditions area with the listed covenants.
What about number 2, the covenant about access?
Recommended only that lot 3 only be allowed to take access from the common driveway. Oh, yes, we can add that. I will add that. I'll just say all lots shall share single or common driveway. I'll say no individual driveways. For lot 3. All right, so I added that in under 6, and then I'll put the speedies in there as well. Okay. Next was Conservation Board. See here. So they recommended a 3, oh wait, that's engineering. I'm also adding the standard 3-inch drainage for retention on site. So next on page 4 is the Conservation Board comments. Sorry. Those were from July 13th, stated that the 3-lot subdivision is in a heavily wooded parcel. It's equidistant between Apatuck and Quantuck Creeks. These tributary areas to Quantuck Bay are part of the larger state-recognized Long Island South Shore Estuary Reserve and is within the town high priority. As recommended, the subdivision map has been revised to indicate that the new construction will be conditioned upon installation of innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems. Consistent with the recommendations contained in the report, the subdivision map has not provided a 40-foot buffer. Some of you may recall we actually had quite a decent conversation about this at the pre-app stage, and because there's a 25-foot buffer to the north, the planning board felt comfortable with establishing the 25-foot buffer adjacent to this. So essentially, we'll be making a 50-foot buffer between the two of them, and then that's also the reason for the wildlife to at least have somewhere to go passively. That's why we kept the one flag strip as a 20-foot buffer. So essentially, there'll be room for wildlife to maneuver between these properties. And then the Conservation Board supports the establishment of the 30-foot wide conservation easement along Meeting House Road, as such a measure will aid the preserving of the scenic character of this portion of the roadway. So I did not receive comments from the Trails Advisory Board, although they did state that there is no trail implications, but I did not get a formal memo from them. So I will just say that we haven't received anything, but there's really no opportunity for trails in this location. And this was a matter of local determination from the Suffolk County Planning Commission. So with that, I was just asking for the title to be revised to state as Firestar Holdings LLC, and if needed, it can be referenced as AKA Meeting House Road. The map's just changed the title from pre-up to final. We like to keep it consistent. Compliance with the town engineer's comments, town engineer approval of the common driveway, acknowledge receipt of subdivision regulations, add the declaration of covenants notes to the map. No further subdivision for covenants, no lot line modification without planning board approval, flag lot restrictions for lots 1 and 2, which are the 2 flag lots. All utilities shall be installed underground, no new utility poles for overhead utilities. I'm going to add in here that lots 1, 2, and 3 shall share a singular common driveway, and then I'm going to add to that no individual driveway for lot 3. And then I'm also going to add in the standard 3-inch drainage and the speedies from the engineering memo I just received today. Then we go on for the 25-foot buffer, which is along the western and northern boundary of Lot 1, so that's the northerly flag lot. Then a 20-foot naturally vegetated non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer for the flag strip of Lot 1 to provide common driveway. And then 3-inch drainage, retention of storm water. Then we have the standard covenant for clearing, construction of common driveway prior to certificate of occupancy, compliant with Suffolk County Department of Health approvals for innovative on-site wastewater systems. And then submission requirements. So there is a conservation easement shown on the road frontage of Meeting House Lane, which is why 7 is referring to the conservation easement, but that would be a separate document. Common driveway easement, common utility easement, title certification, and mortgage consent. Wayne is here. He brought up the park fee thing. The other thing he is requesting is that instead of it being a 30-foot conservation easement along the road, that also be a buffer so that it can be rolled into the covenants. So that is this. This is shown as a conservation easement, which is a little stronger, but he's asking for this to be included as the buffers so that he can record just one document for the 30-foot.
The only thing I probably want to address is on page 1, the last sentence in item 4. I agree with the prior statement that we encouraged the 1.5 times. I don't know that we're actually waiving flag
Waiving it?
design.
That's generally the language we use, that we're waiving the flag lot policy.
The
Design
design?
plan.
Because
That has been your
It's a
practice.
design requirement.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wayne, please.
Good afternoon, Wayne Bruin for the applicants. I have discussed this with Jackie. Couple comments. Number one, appreciate the board recognizing that we did all this work at the pre-app. With respect to the park fee, the code says, in determining the number of dwelling units or residential lots, the planning board shall exclude the existing overall parcel if said parcel existed single and separate prior to the adoption of the subdivision regulations on May 6, 1975, and shall exclude any dwelling. The point of that was if you had a lot, purpose of the park fee is to provide park facilities for the new lots that you're creating in the subdivision. If the current lot that we have there, we built the house, you would exclude it, and that was why that was written that way. So I pointed that out, and I have no problem. I think there was some minor transfer of property, so to the extent single and separate, but I think it was giving land to an adjoining parcel here in the past. So that's number one. Number two, with respect to that, Jackie, I noticed you don't have anything in the conditions for the actual payment of the park fee. So you might want to have
Oh, yes.
a clause that says set the park fee and payment of that park fee. With respect to the covenants, we understand the town engineers, they're pretty standard. I point out, you had this discussion in your last one, that standard condition that you have is clearing, grading, and subbase, and drainage to be installed prior to the conveyance or the issuance of a building permit. Purpose of that, the board's policy is to make sure the subdivider, the developer of the property, does the public improvements before a lot is sold, so that an individual lot owner doesn't become burdened with doing all the work for the others. So I just point that out, and that's standard, we accept that. The language about the IA systems, that's the, as you know, that's the current health department regulations. I think when you say or recent, I think, or whatever the applicable standards are, I don't know why you need to even put it in a covenant, because they have to comply to the health department anyway. With respect to the buffers, I think the word conservation easement was put on by the surveyor, wasn't something this board raised. You wanted the buffer along the street, we provided, as well as along the driveway and along the north side. And we provide for the buffer language in the covenant on the other two sides. So I think, to be consistent, we would want to just make the buffer language in the covenant on all three sides and not have a totally separate document. I don't think there's any significance between them. That being said, all the other conditions are acceptable, as well as the town engineer's requirements.
Any questions on that? So there's no covenant on any of the buffers? You
No,
want this buffer
so
language, right?
So the covenant would reign over all the buffers. He's just asking to not have a separate conservation easement because that's what it's titled. So that's like what I had, is a
Right.
separate conservation easement, but to include, so I'll pull that 30-foot buffer up
Yeah.
Into that?
into
Okay.
that.
And then make a note on our map changes to change
Yeah, I was
that
actually
label
just,
to
I was
be
just actually
consistent
thinking
with all
that,
the
because
other-
then I'll ask them to relabel it.
Okay.
So we're requiring it as a buffer.
And
So
2
I'll-
lots on the park fee, and then add park fee.
Yeah,
to
I'm adding the park
conditions.
fee, yep.
Right.
Relabel 30-foot to buffer.
Any other questions from the board?
I'll move it.
Motion to accept by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Wayne.
Kate's absent?
Yeah.
Pass the maps down?
Yeah, maps.
Maps?
All maps. Map coming.
Next, Charles, this is the one Daphne Vaughn was going to Zoom as a representative.
Escalante, Rodrigo Escalante.
Rodrigo Escalante. Yep, and I have pre-app reports for you. Thank you, Tom.
Charles, do you have, who?
Daphne.
Daphne in the waiting room?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Daphne.
Hi,
Hey,
Daphne.
Daphne.
Sorry, I gave somebody probably an extra 14. Get back one copy of the report. So Daphne, you can hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. All right, so this is the subject property. You'll see here, this is the 2 red highlighted properties. There is town open space to the east right here, and there is an existing home with a circular driveway. So this is a little bit zoomed in. As you can see, there are some commercial properties to the east. This is the proposed subdivision. I did consult with Daphne and said if you're going to subdivide, we want to eliminate driveways, so they are proposing to eliminate this portion. They would still like to retain the driveway over here for this lot, which I believe is Lot 1. But then essentially the other 2 will be served. So essentially will be kind of a wash with curb cuts in regards to Flanders Road. So this one will be accessing the 2 rear lots back here, and then this will be removed, this portion here, so that this lot will still have the benefit of their driveway on the opposite side. So as in regards to the pre-app report, this is a 3-lot subdivision at 712 and 718 Flanders Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 143, 250, and 51. This is in the R15 zoning district and the New York archaeologically sensitive areas. Wait, I have to add in there. And this is a 3-lot subdivision of a 61,000 square foot property. So they are trying to meet flag lot policy as well on this one. So it is further described at the bottom of page 1. It is a type 2 action. It is not in any overlay districts. We did waive the cluster plan because there was no way to have significant open space or contiguous open space to be accomplished in relation with the three-lot subdivision. The planning board prefers the three-lot plan, which is a standard plan pursuant to the waiver of the cluster plan requirement in this specific case. It does meet the review for a minor subdivision review. There's no actual specific comp plan recommendations for this area, but it does say in the general hamlet area to promote market rate housing and neighborhood enhancements. With the park assessment, it is 3 lots, but we are grandfathering the existing home. And in this area, the park assessment per lot is $5,005.59. So that would be based upon 2 lots. Public hearing was held on May 26th. No public comments were received during the public hearing, which was closed with a 10-day written comment period. With referrals, we received from the fire prevention, which just requested street numbers and that the area is served with public water and fire hydrants. The town engineer had comments from May 27th, 2022, which required some map notes to be edited, as well as the specifications for the common driveway, and asked that they work on those prior to final application. Flanders Fire District, by their comments, May 25th, 2022, provide the following. With regard to Rodrigo Escalante, pre-application, the Board of Fire Commissioners of Flanders Fire District has no comments or recommendations on the proposed activity. The Conservation Board, they have comments from May 25th, 2022, stated the proposed 3-lot subdivision warrants stringent environmental review as the tract is located within the Peconic River and Reeves Bay watersheds, as well as within the town's high priority water quality. Consistent with the objectives of the water quality designation, innovative alternative on-site wastewater systems should be required. Water quality in the surface waters of Peconic River has declined. To the point where New York State Department of DEC has permanently closed these waters to shell fishing and has included them in their 303D impaired water body list. In response to the 303 impaired water body listing, a federal mandated total maximum daily load has been prepared for the nitrogen impaired portions of the Peconic River, including the portion of the river north of the subject premises. Significant portions of the tract have been naturally vegetated prior to 2004, when the entirety of the subject property was cleared. A conservation easement should be established extending at least 20 feet south of the northerly lot line on Lot 3 in order to offset such environmental damage to restore some long-term ecological functionality. 6, the map approval should be conditioned upon the easement restoration through allowance of natural vegetative succession or recovery in order to provide wildlife movement corridors and limits on fertilizer and pesticide application, as well as to offer carbon sequestration benefits and visual screening from the residential development to the north. The Peconic River total daily load notes at a development density of 1 dwelling unit per acre. Studies have shown the approximately 50% of the total nitrogen loading to groundwater comes from fertilizer applications. Restrictions on turf lawn ornamental vegetation would aid in achieving the nitrogen reduction goals outlined in the TMDL, total nitrogen daily load. So Trails Advisory Board stated that there's no trail implications at this time. We did not receive comments from Franca to date. So with that, I go to the top of page 6, which is the planning board recommends the applicant proceed with a 3-lot standard plan. Lots 2 and 3 will require variances for the flag lot width, which are currently shown at approximately 15.2, where 20 is required. It is in the high priority area, so lots 2 and 3 would require installation of a new innovative alternative system, and it's noted that substantial expansion of the existing dwelling on proposed lot 1 may also require the installation of an IA system.
Jackie, you weren't here when we discussed this earlier, but the county requires that now, so it doesn't matter that it's the high priority area.
Okay. Do you want me to take it out? Or do you want...
We should be consistent with what we shouldn't be using terminology that applied before the county mandated.
Do you want me to take out 3 in its entirety?
Well, I think you should say that.
It could be modified.
Modified it to say that it's based on the
Just
county rules.
alerting them that the
Yeah.
IA system.
It requires
In other words, remove the language of.
So I could say the planning board acknowledges the requirement.
No, just that the subject property is
just move the language referring to the high priority water quality area.
Okay.
Innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system are required.
Required based on county health
Based on
department.
Suffolk County Health Department.
Okay. I'll start with any new construction
Yeah, yeah.
on lots 1 and 2. How about that? Any new construction of residence will require that. Subject parcel currently cleared, although I am recommending, consistent with the Conservation Board, that a 25-foot natural non-disturbance non-fertilization buffer be required on the north, so essentially in this location,
Okay, 25?
25. As you can see, most of these properties are wooded in the back,
Yes.
so it would provide a little consistency. And although it is R15 zoning district, so these lots are roughly 20,000 square feet flag lots. So I did say if the applicant can allow it to passively revegetate, essentially then between the pre-app, health department, and final, it can revegetate on its own, or at the final application stage, the applicant could prepare a revegetation plan,
Right, 'cause
depending
it's
on.
not going to revegetate that quickly.
You'd be surprised. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we can basically revisit that at the final application stage. It is recommended that lots 2 and 3 be served by a single common driveway. And then access to the driveway existing there's existing driveway access for the existing lot 1. Compliance with town engineer's memo of May 27th, 2002. Revisions to the final plat and compliance with the design requirements of the common driveway. I am going to add in here that, the standard phase 1A and 1B archaeological report.
review.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to put that in there. The applicant shall show note the ownership of the adjacent properties. We're also asking for the exact location of the existing cesspools, because there's just a label C and P, street numbers, and if there's any covenants that exist, there is a filed subdivision of Silverbrook Colony that impacts these lots. So just want to see if there's anything on the record at the final application for that. And then proceed with ZBA, Health Department, and then come in with the final application. Daphne, did you have any questions?
My only comment, Daphne Vaughn, Certified Environmental Planning for Rodrigo Escalante. I just found out about this yesterday afternoon, which is why I'm not there in person, because I had other obligations today, so I apologize for the Zoom. I wish I was there in person. However, I have not been able to express any of this to my client yet due to his current work schedule. So I do need to discuss this whole buffer thing with him. However, this property is not in aquifer protection or the Central Pine Barrens. That all begins across Flanders Road on the opposite side. So, you know, when he cleared the property back in 2004, when he took ownership, he did not have any restrictions against him to do so. So, you know, what he has there is what he's technically allowed. 25 feet seems to be kind of a lot, especially in the back of the property where an accessory setback would be allowed a 10-foot setback, so it would be more excessive than the actual allowable building envelope for an accessory structure. That seems to be a little much, especially, you know, if he would have to plant it, and I don't know that he would want to just let it grow if he does have to do this. I would have thought that maybe a buffer would have been imposed on Flanders Road just because of the traffic. There was a subdivision done 3 lots further west from here in 2002 that was similar, and the lots were actually a little bit bigger, and the only buffer that was required was on Flanders Road. So that would have been what I would have thought, but you know, I would say that if the board is inclined to go for some kind of a buffer on this, I would prefer that the pre-app report maybe not define it specifically, and I can, discuss it with my client, and we can provide something during the final application.
So sometimes, I mean, it is R15, so the bulk of this property is going to be over that size, which is 18,895 square feet for the bulk area. In instances where we've recommended a buffer, sometimes we have left the size open at the final application stage to, see what they provide and see what has come back native vegetation as well. I don't know if the planning board's comfortable with
I'm
that.
comfortable with 25 feet personally. It was cleared in 2004 without
It was.
any regard
Yeah, it was.
for any vegetation. This is not a burden.
So, I mean, I don't have the scale here, but like essentially we're talking about this area that I highlighted in yellow. This side, I don't have a measurement for here, but this is saying it's 144 feet long. So if you take 25 feet off, they still have 119 feet width to improve. Again, with a flag lot, they do get to choose their front and their rear yard, so they can orientate their development with the buffer, but it's up to the board.
Well,
I was also informed yesterday that the chief building inspector is now looking at the interpretation of the zoning code such that the required rear yard, that he wants structures in the actual rear yard. So I would feel that impeding on the rear yard with this buffer would potentially be an issue for that. There's a 40-foot setback for the front yard and a 50-foot setback for the principal rear, so that's 90 feet of that 144, and that's the longer side of the lot. I just feel like 25 feet seems to be an awful lot in an area. I mean, what is he protecting? There's a third of an acre between him and any open water, a third of a mile, and significant development. I mean, many, many houses between him and any open water. I'm not really seeing the nexus for it.
Well, let's leave it open. You're going to show this to your client anyway. Express our desire for a buffer of some size.
And go from there. But
Yeah.
what you said about the chief building inspector is speculation. We don't know anything about that, so we can't factor that in.
These are tight lots.
And I
But
did,
there is no greenery. I mean, it is a bare, it's bare land.
Yeah.
I did measure, it's approximately like 2,000 feet away from Peconic Bay. So there are existing development to the north of it, but it doesn't mean that, a buffer doesn't serve as, a feature.
It might
Natural habitat is
Yeah.
what it's
But
called.
I can just, I can,
Protecting the aquifer.
mhm. Yeah, it's not an aquifer protection, but the planning board has the right to impose a buffer.
Yeah, but it's.
It's right across the
We
street.
still drink the same water, even if
Yeah.
it's not in the protect.
Yeah, it's right across the
In the
street from the
A5.
aquifer protection.
Yeah.
So I can just say establishment of a natural non-disturbance buffer on the northern property
Yeah.
boundary.
Yes.
We'll just leave the size alone,
But you can encourage him
and then I'll just take out 25. And
along
so I'm
the lines
just,
that it is not excessive. So let him
building.
and
participate.
I'm just adding to 6 that lot 1 can retain their existing driveway, because that's all the way on the other side. The planning board's
Yeah,
fine with that.
So you have a lot of driveways here.
And
Well, they're gonna remove this portion, Jackie. So they'll keep
That's
theirs,
coming out.
they'll keep theirs, this is coming out, and there'll just be one new driveway serving the 2. I think that's reasonable with all the improvements he has on the east side of the house.
building, because we had another one.
So essentially, this will remain,
Well,
this will be taken out, but essentially no additional curb cuts, because they'll take
yeah,
the
in
circle
exchange
out.
for that, he should put in a buffer.
But I'll say that lot 1 can retain that eastern driveway.
And the farm out here, the
I guess.
Is the board comfortable with that?
Well, he's got a lot of infrastructure, as you said. I don't know what material that is on the driveway,
Yeah.
the one that
It's
goes
gravel.
back.
It's gravel.
So the circular area is coming out.
So this is coming out.
And that'll be what, revegetated?
Probably be reclaimed as lawn.
Subsurface, no, that's what it is.
Okay.
Yep. And then the new driveway will come up here
Things have to go in before.
to serve the 2 new lots.
Okay.
And then I'm adding in the archaeological report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackie, did all this clearing come by way of illegal clearing?
It's not, there's no clearing restrictions here. So it was just
No, but-
cleared as a single residential lot. Right across the street, if you see those light blue lines, that's where the aquifer protection starts, right on the south
Right,
side of
but,
Flanders
you
Road.
know, I
It's
mean,
right across the
some
street.
sensitivity
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
taking down every tree.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm a little torn on it, that's all. I don't want to restrict their ability to build there by way of buffer, but I do want buffer at the same time.
Well, I think we're
It's-
doing it,
Plenty of space.
we're not specifying how much. So maybe that's a good I think
Yeah.
that's a compromise that works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not specifying, but we want to see a buffer on the northern property. Then we can
Unless-
reevaluate it at the
size
final.
of
We're
the depth of
suggesting,
it.
think about it.
Exactly, yeah.
That works.
I'll discuss it with my client.
Yeah, maybe they'll
The
cooperate.
consensus seems to be they want to buffer Daphne, so that way we can discuss the size at the final application stage.
Okay. Understood.
I think that's,
Okay, motion to
Motion.
accept by Craig, second
Second.
by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
You want to ask Jackie?
Can I ask a question?
Thank you.
The M4.
Thanks,
Daphne.
Daphne. Yep.
The previous application, or two years back, the M4 application,
Mhm.
lumber, where did we end up on the construction after grading culverts?
I included it, I prior to building permit.
Prior to building permit.
Clearing,
Early on.
subbase, and culvert prior to building permit.
Early
That's right,
on, yeah.
Mhm.
Is that where we should be, or we should? Yeah, no.
Yeah, building permit.
Yeah.
Because that's
They start
before
building,
anyone
they
builds a
have to put it
house.
in.
Yeah,
Before anyone builds a house, they'll have to do all the grading and the culvert system.
But that puts the onus on one person who builds it, as opposed
It does, but it's a covenant, so then they're aware, if they're the first one to purchase a property, they're the one that has to do it.
Is that different, is that markedly different from what we normally use? Or just
Usually it's prior to conveyance, so usually it's on the developer. I do believe in this case, though, the developer has been wanting to build his own house on Lot 1, but has been waiting for the subdivision to be defined. So I do think in this instance, although I can't predict the future, that he wants to build his house, will most likely happen
That
first.
leaves it open if he decides to sell the one lot.
Yeah, and that means the first person to build, yeah. But I have to admit, like, you can get there now. So right now, you have the ability to get to your lot if you need
unless it's
to.
raining really hard.
Yeah,
So
unless
it's
it's
a
one of
unique
those.
situation, George, you know, I mean,
I just wanted to be setting it
I don't know that we've ever looked
Yeah.
at a culvert system
Nor-
before.
Yeah, and
because of this huge swale.
normally we require like the rough grading and clearing prior to conveyance so that somebody can get safely. They can already get safely to these lots and they can get construction vehicles there, but this is unique where we want to make sure that culvert system is in before anyone starts building. But that was what was decided upon, yeah.
Okay, so you have 1127 Noyak Road, it's a,
Yes. I have resolutions here. Should have also been in the packet.
At least one large oak.
I have the visuals.
okay?
That's the resolution.
14, Noyak.
Yeah, so I worked with the applicant's representative, who is here, Lisa Poyer. This was over-cleared during construction, and then we revised the revegetation plan, and I just recently got the revised survey back, which unfortunately I couldn't load the revegetation plan. But the proposed survey shows that it will bring the property into compliance, and it will be 48% cleared, where 50% is required. So I have a resolution of approval.
Okay, do you have a picture
I
of that?
can't see that, that's.
This is the property.
That's a house, one house?
This is one house, yeah. Sorry, I cut off this corner, but it was either zoom way out or zoom way in.
And where was it cleared?
So it
Jackie?
cleared like along the edge here.
I see.
See, they took down these trees, so it's mostly the edge here where they overcleared, and then they took down the mature trees here, and then they're gonna revegetate a little bit by the driveway here.
What about the back section? Looks like.
Yeah, this is where they took down the
Be-
mature
be-
trees.
Behind.
Oh, no, they didn't encroach on the neighboring property. You mean here?
No,
Where?
The top of the picture, that,
This? Yeah, that's where they're revegetating.
okay.
Yeah, I wish I could show you. I couldn't get the re-veg plan to load for this merger, but I have it. It's a nice re-veg plan. It's essentially re-vegging all along here, and then mostly in the back here, and then there's little areas along here, along the
And
front.
beyond the re-veg on the top, is that woods? It looks very sparse to me.
This is all woods, yes.
There's been no clearing up there?
No, I did a site
Thinning out.
inspection.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is this an aquifer protection?
This is.
Oh, yeah.
DOD?
It's
Yep.
APOD, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yep. Yep, so I have the standard conditions.
I don't think that says that unless I'm missing it in the description.
Oh, I can add that.
Important.
Yeah. No problem. I will add that into the second whereas. Yep, so recommending approval of the revegetation plan and the associated survey, which we've referenced, and have the standard conditions that we've worked out for completion, and this expires after 1 year.
So it was overcleared by how much percentage?
Let's see here.
66%.
16%.
It's supposed to be
16%.
16% overcleared, and now they're replanting, revegetating
Yep.
that whole 16%.
And more. So it'll be 48% as a result. 48.3% where 50 is permitted.
Okay, you have that in here?
I have the 48%. Oh, no, I just have that. I can add the 48%.
Yeah, please.
They are allowed to go to the 50, though. I can add, I'll add that into that last whereas. So I made like a finding that they're complying with 50%, and I'll say the property after revegetation will result in 48.3% clearing.
Jackie, do you know what they're going to be planting?
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing a nice job. It's like ferns, mostly oaks and lowbush blueberry.
It's from our list of native plants.
Yep. Yeah, I actually worked with them because they had some that I wasn't recommending, so they actually revised the planting plan.
Do we require a
upon-
bond on these reveg
No, we
plants?
generally don't on private property. Because is the town going to go in and plant the bushes for them
They can't. it's
on a
not
private
practical.
property?
Yeah, okay,
People just walk.
But we do that when it's a public infrastructure in need.
Yeah.
yeah,
We will, yeah.
okay.
All right.
I often wonder, when we do re-veg programs like this, and, you know, if they're not mature trees, do they put drip line irrigation on them and fertilizers?
We allow temporary irrigation, and what I generally recommend is that the irrigation is installed, like, you won't allow the infrastructure of the irrigation, but you'll allow essentially that, I don't know, spigot, I don't know what it would be called, but you can rotate that so that it basically irrigates the property, and then once the vegetation is mature, it really won't need any of the maintenance or irrigation anymore. So then essentially you can just turn those spigots around to just water the lawn or the other species.
Right.
So that's what we generally recommend. So temporary irrigation, but no infrastructure in those revegetation areas, because we don't want them pulling out any of the piping or hosing
Yeah.
after the fact and disturbing anything, but we will allow the temporary irrigation to
Yeah.
irrigate that area.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a motion to approve
Motion?
by Gloria, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Jackie, 720 Butter Lane.
Yes. So this is an aerial for you, and I have resolutions to pass out.
Utilize existing structure.
So this is the property currently existing as a farm. This is a zoom out to show you the full, thank you. Carl, would you like one of these? This is just a draft. So this is the subject property, currently under agricultural protection. You can see here there's a bunch of buildings along the southeast corner. So then we'll zoom in on that area. I had met with the property owner and just ask that essentially that these areas be legalized and cleaned up. So there's trailers here and trailers here, which as a result will be removed. And then there's also the legalization of this processing facility right here. So the site plan here shows you, this is the overall property. This is phase 1, which they're proposing to remove this trailer initially, and then phase 2 to remove these trailers. We also asked them to show a functional parking area so that we know essentially where employees will be parking and where people who will be visiting the farm stand will be parking, to essentially separate those. This is phase 1. They are, if you turn a couple pages in the package I submitted, they are asking to expedite phase 1 and waive the public hearing for phase 1. I'll let the applicant speak to that, but I just want you to know that they're asking to proceed quickly with phase 1, which is removal of this trailer and implementing this and legalizing this processing trailer here. Phase 2, they would like to schedule a public hearing for the fall so that they can get you more information on the amenities here. But this will result in these 3 trailers being removed. And then this, they will get you elevations for the proposed barn alteration. But this barn is already there.
Jackie, go back to your first slide, the overhead, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, now can you indicate what's coming out?
So on the phase 1, this trailer would be coming out, and then legalizing this trailer.
What's in those trailers now?
You know what, I'll let the applicant speak to the functionality, because
And
it'd be
then
more.
It says office trailer.
This is a processing, I think this is a refrigerator one. These are going to be removed, but I don't know what exactly they're being used for.
How many in total are being removed?
4 in total. This one for phase 1, and then these 3 would be removed for phase 2. Phase 1, they're asking for the legalization of this existing trailer here. And then this is a refrigeration trailer, and then part of phase 2 is like a concrete pad here, and then a roof overhang, which they'll get you more information on.
Hey, look, I mean, according to the plans, it says the office trailer is going to be converted to a hemp processing facility, and what wasn't refrigerated, it's really a storage container for produce, according to the plans, right?
Yeah, existing refrigerated produce storage.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Carl Benincasa for the applicant. Good to see you all. Let's turn to phase 1, as that's the most imminent or the most urgent aspect of this application. Essentially, we're looking to remove a food storage trailer, which is incidental to the ultimate goal of legalizing for food processing the office trailer that Jackie mentioned. The office trailer has actually been used, as it's noted, as a food processing site for agriculture and crops grown on site for just about 10 years, and throughout that time had approvals from the Agricultural Markets Department for such use. The time has come to get that legalized with the town, and we've had several meetings with the town attorney's office, with the building department, and with land management to get that achieved. It was the last meeting we had with them approximately 1 month ago that they suggested we needed to come to this board, as we naturally would, given the fact that this all exists on an easement created pursuant to a CPF purchase, which removed all development rights from this parcel and allows it to exist owned by the applicant as an agricultural parcel. Your council has that easement, and I'll leave the interpretation of that easement to her, but as I read it, the easement permits agricultural production, agricultural processing pursuant to town code and in conjunction with the reading of agriculture and markets law. That ag and markets law now references hemp production. That's permitted under section 503 of the ag and markets law. So by the inclusion and the recent amendment of that law, certainly hemp production is a permitted use on an agricultural parcel, both under the terms of the law and our position under the terms of the easement.
It's been in hemp production for quite some time.
Well, again, that's been a permitted use under the law for quite some time, They had the production, the authority to produce pursuant to ag and markets for years. The one thing they were missing was the building department. And that's what or I shouldn't say building department, a building permit and subsequent approvals for use, and that's why we're here. Since they were informed that they missed that, they have ceased use of that, the applicant has ceased use of that trailer for that purpose.
When you say food processing, what are you?
Agricultural processing, so processing of the crops grown on site. It can include food processing for sale at the farm stand.
Like creating pies or?
No, hemp products.
Well, hemp is one of them. They also, I can let Mr. Falkowski explain exactly what he does there, but I know he makes pesto there and several other things that are sold in the farm stand. So it's just the processing in conjunction with the agricultural operation on
Do you
site.
need like any type of health department approval permits or anything?
So as long as you have the, do you?
I can answer.
Yeah, certainly. But as long as you have the ag and markets approval and health department approval in conjunction with the farm stand, you're covered there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that's phase one, and I want to focus on that now. Phase two, as Jackie mentioned, is also further down the road, and in phase two, the temporary use of that office trailer, the food processing, will be moved into that larger barn. We understand phase two is a larger project. We understand that has to go through full site plan review. Prior to today's meeting, Jackie suggested we pick a preferred date for the hearing on that, for a public hearing on that, and I think we had agreed to this first meeting in October?
October 13th.
Yeah. But we are asking pursuant to your authority under the code to waive that hearing with respect to this food processing trailer, as it is an intermediate step, as its use will ultimately sunset when you have final approval on the barn, and as we need that approval in order to obtain further permits for processing from the state. The deadline for that is August. So we have a lot of reasons why we're asking to waive that hearing.
Makes sense.
I think Mr. Falkowski can explain further exactly what he's doing, the use of the trailer now for you.
Carl, before you go, are the structures conforming?
With zoning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I correct in assuming that you want this part expedited so that that trailer can be used again for whatever processing you're doing, that you continue to sell your processed things from the farm stand this summer?
He can explain how essential, I can tell you it is essential to his current operations. And that's why we're doing this. If it weren't, we would just be pursuing the long-term phase two. But because it's so essential to his current operations, we were asking for this intermediate step. So the applicant is Mr. David Falkowski. He'll explain a little more about farming.
Thank you, everybody, for hearing me out today. So I just have some friends who are very interested in my journey for the last 20 years of farming. David Falkowski, current resident of Sag Harbor Village, grew up in Bridgehampton. I'm a third-generation farmer. My daughter is a fourth generation, and I say that because she's planted her own kale, grown it, and eat it by the age of 8 years old. I've been farming for 20 years. I hope to farm for another 20 on this family land. I'm sure many of you have known of many of my uncle's endeavors and maybe some of mine, being the first one here in Long Island to grow certified organic mushrooms, being a founding member, the majority of the farmers markets here on the East End. And it was over about a decade ago when I first procured a 20-seat, Article 20C under New York State Ag and Markets license to process our farm products, where some of the first products we made were actually kale chips and lacto-fermented pickles. I actually did a date check earlier because we have scheduled processes, which are scientific recipes we procured from the food lab in the state. So it was back in 2012-13 when we first started in this trailer. As Carl said, as certain licenses I hold with Ag and Markets and how hemp stuff has moved from Ag and Markets to the Department of Health, and now we have this whole new Office of Cannabis Management that encompasses all other things cannabis. This requirement for a CO or similar in the structure in which we're processing. Ag and Markets never required that because they kind of have their own unique agricultural codes. And I'm now just kind of like running out of time with this. And your assertion was correct. The reason we're asking, for this phase one expedition is so I can continue to my pickles that are coming in right now to process them, and the hemp that's eventually going to come in to turn that back into oil, and the gummies that we sell at our farm stand and also elsewhere. That's the core of our absolute business at this moment. We do look forward to getting into more details, with the Phase 2, which is really the nuts and bolts of the project. For right now, I hope you see a simple solution to this one step, so I can basically actually afford Phase 2 here.
Is the videographer with you?
Yes, I apologize. There are friends who are just seen my journey for 20 years, and I'm sorry if I come to a little bit of tears today, but I mean, it really is a farmer fighting for his right or ability to just continue to farm and do what I need to do to bring food to the tables and medicine of my local community. And I understand that the ways that I have to do this are not always the ways that everybody else thinks they are. And I just hope, we all come to a place in the middle so I can continue to do this, and I don't have to go do something else.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the buildings that are being requested to be converted, or just go over it one more time, because
It's
it's
the Phase 1 they need done now.
Phase 1.
So this office trailer would be allowed to be the
Remain.
processing facility, and then they're going to remove this trailer, and then they're also...
wait.
But that's Phase 2, right?
No, this one is, I'm showing you Phase 1 right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
the office trailer is going to be converted into a processing facility.
Yep.
Which, sorry to interrupt, it was already in uses that pursuant to the Ag and Markets approval.
Okay, now you need another
They were
requirement.
stopped because they didn't have a town
Town
building
building.
permit, so
Right.
they want to continue to use it, but
That's
they're
right.
removing
Yeah.
something else.
Right.
They're
Got that right?
seeking to legalize this trailer for the
Okay.
processing, and then they're going to remove this trailer south of the farm stand. That's Phase 1. And then Phase 2,
Well, we
It's
should
down
just
here.
focus
Just focus on the Phase 1.
because that's what's being,
Yeah.
Sure.
we're requested to expedite.
and, sorry, and what is happening here is they're going to organize the employee parking here, and then they're going to organize the farm stand parking in the front. I told them we
Phase
really
1?
want to,
They're doing parking in Phase 1?
well, there's already a farm stand.
Right.
There's already a farm stand, so they're organizing the parking. Yep, and then they're having employee parking to the north here during Phase 1.
So,
How
I'm
many
sorry,
spaces?
Jackie,
Eight parking spaces here, and then I believe it's 8 parking spaces in the front, but 3 and 5.
But those spaces pretty much already exist.
They're already
Area,
informally there.
informal.
Yeah.
We're trying to
It's
organize
just,
the,
it's a dirt
Yeah.
place,
Yeah,
you
so
just
like a-
drive up to
you
the
just
farm
pull
stand.
up.
So if it's
Yes.
dirt now, what, are you improving the surface, or what are you doing to organize them? Put signage up,
Signage.
or?
signage?
Yeah, I don't think there's plans to pave or gravel them.
It's really
We're
just
gonna-
sign them in some way, or stripe them or something?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
you can do
farm
curb
stand,
stops.
farm stand parking, and then
Curb stops.
employee parking.
Curb
Yeah.
stops would be
You could do
best.
curb stops or something.
Yep.
We could do that.
And they need that many
But the-
spaces? You need that many spaces?
It's 5 is required, at least 5 is required through a farm stand permit
For parking, so.
for parking.
Parking,
They've
yeah.
exceeded that, and they've provided 8,
And 8 for your employees?
and 8
So-
for the employees to the north, yeah.
Assume you have that many people working for you, or?
He's going to have to come up to the podium
Alright.
if you're going to ask him questions.
Yeah.
Come on up, sure.
So just to give a couple things in context, these are really great questions, and I just want to let you inside where I've done things. The one trailer being removed was a food processing trailer, was one of these food trucks, and we attempted to make the laws. So we ceased, as we were asked by the town. So that food processing space, that's going to be removed from this whole equation to simplify everything. Those uses go back into this trailer we're asking to legalize permit. So that was kind of like, let's get rid of this, let's just consolidate as a temporary step for Phase 2, and we're eventually going to move all of this into the barn. As far as the parking, you all are correct, it's dirt right now. For instance, I actually have a couple cinder blocks with some fence rails, so it's not a cement curb stop, but you could probably see it via satellite. Completely open, to recommendations, whatever it takes to make things a little bit more clear, including to any improvements to the parking area, whether they do recommend gravel or something. I mean, it is my intention to make the place presentable and accessible to customers.
So that will bring you in compliance then with the building department?
That one particular permission for that trailer, this buys me this space with my licenses, so I can get back
So
to
that's
a
it.
comfortable pace where we can then work out the rest of the details on the larger project. This is literally the one thing that keeps me up at night.
So the expedited approval you're seeking is to change the office trailer into a processing plant and then to remove that small little trailer? Those two things?
he would need our approval to remove the trailer, though, right?
Well,
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Just, the expedite approval is just limited to those two things. We will do, formalize parking as a condition of it. We're happy to do that, and then come back for full site plan on the larger barn. Now, we're here for an it's actually an ag building permit, is
Yeah,
the
ag construction permit.
construction permit.
So if you guys are comfortable, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to waive the public hearing for phase one, if you're comfortable, but we're going to send select referrals, because we always like to send it to fire prevention for safety reasons, et cetera. And then I would like to, I'm going to add it, since he doesn't have the full plans for the barn, but I think it would be prudent now to set that hearing for the fall. But that way, essentially, we know that it's coming back for phase two, and then we can look at that through the full site plan process.
So can we act on this today, or do you need the?
We can act on it, yeah, we'll basically essentially give it expedited review, waive the public hearing for phase one, and then I'm gonna do a, be it further resolved, we set a public hearing for October 13th for phase two.
I mean, it's really not changing much of what's going
No.
on now, so.
Not at all.
It's really.
It's legalizing this trailer now, getting rid of one trailer, and then formalizing parking.
So the community doesn't necessarily need to see this right
No,
now, because
yeah.
it's.
But for phase two, that will go through full
Yeah.
site plan,
We'll
we'll
have a
look at
hearing
the
then.
barn, we'll look at the configuration of everything at that point.
But just from a
And another-
procedural, I'm sorry, just from a procedural standpoint, like, you don't need our permission to remove that trailer.
No, it's just part of
The
the,
first, yeah, that's.
Part of,
Yeah.
part of phase one.
but that trail, the use of that trailer could exist contrary to zoning code, as,
Right.
needs approvals for use. So whether or not that does happen, it's no longer a problem.
You're running into you're running into a licensing deadline with the state, right?
Very
You gotta-
tight.
And then looking for municipal,
Yeah.
very common, then looking for municipal approval, so.
Exactly.
So if we can expedite this, do select
Yeah.
referrals, then we can bring it back to you quicker, but then still set a public hearing for the overall intent of phase two.
So
And-
we can't approve this
So
now?
we
We
can
have to
act on
send it out
this
to refer.
now.
We can do
We
this.
generally always at least refer to fire prevention for safety issues.
You can approve it subject to the referral to
Subject
fire
to,
prevention.
okay.
We can make it subject to
Yeah,
any
so can I have a
recommendation.
motion to?
Well, do you want to expedite and waive the hearing, or do you want to approve this here and now, subject to fire
Well,
marshal?
Let's
do
approve it now.
Yeah.
Let's do it now.
Approve it now? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait
They have
a
very
minute.
One other thing I just
time.
want to put on the record is that this use that you're working on, that you're approaching expedited, in an expedited manner, will be phased out completely with this phase two.
With the phase
So it
two.
won't be there
Well,
next
that
summer.
language will
It's
be
good, the use is
included.
gonna be there, but it's gonna be in a different place.
In the barn, subject to full site plan.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
But you're approving phase one.
Phase one.
Yeah.
So we're
So our
expediting.
resolution then is to.
Phase one is a
approval of
Band-Aid.
Phase one,
Approve-
and then setting the hearing.
Yep, approval of phase one with expedited review, subject to fire prevention comments.
Any
And then be it further resolved to schedule a public hearing for phase two,
And that's October,
October 13th, 2022.
Okay, and so you'll include in phase one those three items, the parking,
Yeah, I did,
removal of one, and the conversion of another.
yeah, Carl, if you want to take a look at my fourth whereas, I described the phase one, just let me know if I'm missing anything. Or if it should be tweaked at all,
The conversion.
because then I'll take that language, and.
Well, it can be agricultural processing, legalization. What you'd rather, okay. Of the existing refrigerator storage.
Where I said proposed phase one includes the conversion of the existing office trailer to hemp processing, that was what was shown on the site plan.
Yep.
Legalization of the existing refrigerated produce storage building and trailer, proposed removal of one existing trailer to the south of the farm stand with 8 employee parking spaces to the north of the farm stand.
Perfect.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion? Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're expedited.
good luck.
Good luck.
We'll see you in October. See you, Carl.
Hi, Carl,
Take
good
care,
to
Carl.
see you.
Bye-bye.
16 Klug Barn. It's our last.
There's one other, but it's just incomplete. After Klug,
Which number was this?
90
Number
north.
16 is the Klug Barn.
16 Food Barn?
Okay, so the other one is your extension.
Yeah, we'd be going right into it.
We're talking about hummus and that stuff.
kind of the full set.
510.
That sounds really good. Kale chips? This is the site plan as well. This is elevation. this, I'm sorry, this is an older site plan, but it
Far enough away. You can stay away from them.
So this is on for the approval of an addition to the accessory storage barn.
Where are we? Give us a little, we don't have.
So this is in Northampton, off of Old Merches Road. This is a zoom out, but this is essentially almost in the middle of the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
Trying to think, this is like west of 104, south of Merches Road.
Yeah.
So we approved this barn. So I was trying to do like a zoom out, but it's hard to give you the context of exactly where you're located, but you're basically southwest of Riverhead and in Northampton area. So this is in the core, although this use predates Central Pine Barrens and predates aquifer protection. This is the barn that they sought approvals for in 2018, which has been built, as well as the ag labor housing. So when you zoom in, this is the barn that they're here today to expand the barn here. And
Is
then,
that nice looking barn?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so this is the barn. Yep, so this is like an open space. This is
Yeah.
like where you can pull a tractor in, and this would be enclosed. They just need more storage room, and they'd like room for, oh, sorry, I don't have the floor plans on here. I thought I, huh? Oh, sorry. Wait, this one's open?
Yeah, the one on the left is.
This is open.
Yes.
This is new.
Correct.
Sorry. I switched it, sorry. But essentially, it's just storage and an office for the existing farm.
Right.
And I thought I had the pictures on here, but they might not have loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's nice. So it'll match the existing.
Yeah.
There's no real issues, so I do have an approval here. I just have all the standard referral comments that we received. No major issues because it was considered non-development for the Central Pine Barrens. The Conservation Board noted that it predates the aquifer protection in Central Pine Barrens, so that's basically page 2 and 3. The Ag Advisory Board building said, considering buildings already constructed, we prefer to have proper application process. The owner should be informed of procedure and future activity. But they did. They sought approval for the first barn, so I don't know what that's really about.
Do we have this anywhere?
I just, oh, did I not hand it to you? Oh, I didn't, sorry. I'm sorry, I put it down while I was handing Jackie.
You keep it, you're holding on to your own
Yeah,
one
I
now?
have mine.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm giving it to you guys.
Thanks, George.
So let's see, I was getting page. So basically, no issues with aquifer and clearing and pine barrens because it predates the implementation of those and was considered non-development. This is what I was just reading. This is about proper procedure, but they went through the proper procedure, so I don't know what that's about. And then the ARB did approve it and had no issues because it's going to match the existing barn. And Franca also said that they have no objection, and then they said that they hope, they hope that the final design of the building will be in context with traditional East End agricultural structures and leave that determination in the capable hands of the planning board. And as the applicant and I have stated, it's going to match the existing barn. And I'm sorry, I don't think the picture's loaded. But those are the pictures you saw at the public hearing. Yeah. We did not receive comments from the health department. And we did get a matter of local determination from the Suffolk County Planning, Economic Development and Planning. And it is a type 2 under SECRA because it's farming. And I just had to edit, which I actually, on my copy, I actually edited the, on a more recent copy, I just edited the plans, who they were prepared by and the dates. So with that, I just recommend compliance with the town engineer comments, which essentially is a fee for $2,500, and compliance with the safety standards for the existing gate. Is that still functioning, the knock box? So that emergency vehicles can come in and out? Because they have a gate, so we just wanted to make sure that continues to operate for emergency vehicles. And then just standard engineering requirements and the standard notarized affidavit and plans to be submitted.
Okay, any questions?
Nope.
Anything? Any comments?
it's a lovely looking barn.
It
sure
is.
is. Motion to approve?
Motion.
By Gloria, and second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks. Thanks.
We have one more.
Good to have an engineer in the family.
Number 19,
Well, maybe.
number 1990 North Sea
You're
Mecox
welcome.
Road.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm missing an owner's endorsement and some other things, so at this time, I'm just recommending it be deemed incomplete.
It's incomplete. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Craig, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent, incomplete.
And Woods at Hampton Bays is off the agenda. They weren't able to get me the plans in time.
I don't even.
It was
Oh,
a
that's
signature.
back, the
That's-
signature.
I was hoping to
That's the
sign
signature,
it.
'cause I was-
I was hoping to sign it. They
That's
didn't.
off.
I think
Okay.
it's just with
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, and second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor.
Well, let's
1
see.
absent, we are adjourned, and Jackie, thank
your
you
last
so
meeting?
much for all
last
you,
meeting.
for all your service to this planning
It's so
board.
sad.
It's very sad to lose you, but I know you're
Well, you're going to
happy.
long range, right?
Hmm?
You're going to-
No, she's going to
CPF.
CPF.
Are we
You can have a
happy?
short.
Yeah.